The kitchen was outfitted with high-end appliances that could handle anything from a full dinner to a custom cocktail. This floor felt like Fu Huaishan's second home, completely private, his alone. A white desk dominated the office. On it sat nothing but a computer and a single photo frame. Curiosity sparked, Yunshu stepped closer to see the picture he kept there. Recognition hit, and her eyes flew wide. When did you take this? The shot was from Master Fu's birthday banquet. She and Fu Huaishan stood together, caught mid-laugh in some unguarded moment. Fu Huaishan's mouth curved into a mysterious smile. Secret? I'm not saying. The truth was, Li Jun had snapped it by accident that night. Later, when Li Jun messed up delivering a gift to Yunshu, Fu Huaishan had lost his temper and cancelled the man's annual leave. To claw his way back into good graces, Li Jun offered up the photo as a peace offering. On the coffee table, Fu Huaishan had already laid out every single one of Yunshu's favorite snacks. Once he was satisfied she had everything she needed, he finally settled behind the desk to deal with work. Yunshu nibbled a few snacks, then pulled out her phone to check Su Zongyuan's progress on the website. The moment she opened it, his message popped up. Master, my part's done. You just need to wrap it up and we're good. Okay, I'm about to look at it. If everything checks out, I can finish it today, Yunshu replied. Wait, today? I'm out right now. I wanted to follow along and learn. Su Zongyuan hadn't expected her to jump on it so fast. Missing her hands-on demo would be a huge loss. Where are you? Downtown, near Mr. Fu's building. He was out with his family. Come find me. I'm at Fu Group. Su Zongyuan didn't hesitate. Got it. Less than 10 minutes later, Luo Zhongchen brought Su Zongyuan up to the top floor. Yunshu stood, flashed a quick gesture at the man in the middle of a video conference, and stepped out of the office. Outside, Su Zongyuan spotted her and was practically bouncing. Master, I'm here. Just setting foot on the top floor of the city's biggest financial conglomerate. He was pretty sure his ancestors' graves were smoking right about now. If you hadn't sent Brother Luo down to get me, there's no way I'd have made it inside. The corporate tower had more than a dozen security checkpoints. Without Luo Zhongchen escorting him up, Su Zongyuan probably couldn't have cleared the first one. Yunshu ignored the rambling. This'll take me about an hour. You good with that? Definitely. Whatever it takes. If it meant getting Yunshu's real expertise, an hour was nothing. She turned to Luo Zhongchen. I need a room with solid internet. Anything here? Of course, MRS full. Right this way, Luo Zhongchen answered with crisp respect. He led them to a conference room directly next to Fu Huaishan's office. Mrs. Fu Group runs on its own private network. Zero latency. Please, use it freely. Got it. Thanks, Yunshu said. Mrs. Fu, I'll be right outside. Call if you need anything. With that, Luo Zhongchen left the room. Yunshu was about to sit down and get started when she caught Su Zongyuan staring at her, mouth hanging open like he'd just unearthed some massive secret. What? Su Zongyuan pointed toward the door. He just called you Mrs. Fu. Yeah. Fu Huaishan and I are legally married. Yunshu said it flat, like it was no big deal. Su Zongyuan clamped a hand over his mouth, terrified he'd scream out loud. It took him a second to find his voice. Master, are you telling me you're married to the head of the city's top financial group? That's what I just heard, right? You want to see the marriage certificate? Yunshu raised an eyebrow. No. I just need a second to process this. This was insane. Just a while ago, Fu Huaishan had only announced her as his fiancée, and now he finds out they're already married. The fast ones really do get to taste the world first. But wait, did this mean he'd have to call Fu Huaishan Master's husband now? Yunshu had already flipped open the laptop. Come on. Move. Right. Su Songyuan snapped out of it. The original plan was an R, but with the blazing internet speed and Yunshu's lightning-fast hands, they wrapped everything up in just 45 minutes. Did you follow all of that? Yunshu asked Su Songyuan, who stood beside her. He carefully replayed the steps in his head. Yeah, I got it. Good. When you get back, follow my method and add 3 final layers of protection to the website. Then it's done. Copy that, master. I'll do it right, Su Songyuan said with a firm nod. I'm heading back now. Okay. They stepped out of the conference room. Luo Zhongchang approached immediately. Mrs. Fu, do you need anything? Yunshu glanced toward Fu Huaishang's office. Is Fu Huaishang still busy? For a while longer, yes. Young Master Fu is still tied up. All right. I'll see Su Songyuan down. No need to follow. Luo Zhongchang handed her Fu Huaishang's personal access card. Mrs. Fu, please take this. Yunshu took the card and headed for the elevator first. Looking at the office floor that towered above everyone else, Su Songyuan's excitement lit up all over again. Who would have guessed he'd end up as the apprentice to the boss lady of Fu Group? Talk about insane luck. Master, wait up. Su Songyuan shook himself out of it and chased after her. Luo Zhongcheng had already radioed ahead, so Yunshu and Su Songyuan moved through the building without a single hitch. Outside Fu Group, they stood by the curb waiting for Su Songyuan's ride. He kept rambling about how ridiculously lucky he was to have Yunshu as his master. She tuned him out and was about to wave him off. Just as she opened her mouth to speak, a white Bentley pulled up in front of them. Instinctively, Yunshu yanked Su Songyuan backward a step. But the car stopped directly in front of them. The Bentley's window rolled down slowly. Inside, Shen Yishuang curved his lips into a sly, wicked smile. His voice came out slightly raspy, thick with teasing. Little you. Long time no see. Boom. It was like a thunderclap detonated inside Yunshu's skull. Her body jolted violently, and she started trembling without control. Her face, delicate and fair, drained to a deathly pale in an instant. No. This wasn't her reaction. The thought sliced through her mind. The fear, the shaking, it was the original owner's lingering memory, raging up from deep inside her. The bone-deep terror the original Yunshu had felt toward Shen Yishuang. Yunshu bit down hard on her lip, using the sharp sting of pain to beat back a fear that had nothing to do with her. Beside her, Su Songyuan noticed something was seriously wrong. He stepped directly in front of Yunshu, blocking her from Shen Yishuang's line of sight with his own body, cutting off all contact. Master, are you alright? Dr. Gao's voice was tight with concern. Yunshu pulled in a ragged breath and forced the storm inside her to settle. More than 10 seconds passed before she finally spoke. I'm fine. Dr. Gao turned to face her, the worry still sharp on his features. Master, Shen Yishuang is gone. She looked past him. The Bentley had already disappeared. She steadied her breathing, and color slowly crept back into her cheeks. No one hears about today. Understood. Yunshu said. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Master, you can trust me. But if you ever need anything, you say the word. After Dr. Gao left, Yunshu stayed downstairs a while longer before heading back to the top floor. Fu Huaishang had just wrapped up his work. Fu Huaishang, I need to go back to the Yun residence today. I'll spend the night there and come back tomorrow. Is that okay? His expression darkened slightly at the thought of her visiting her family while he'd be home alone, but he respected her choice. Fine. I'll drop you off. Tomorrow after school, I'll pick you up and bring you home. He took her hand, and they walked together toward the elevator. Yunshu looked down at his large hand wrapped around hers, her eyes becoming unreadable. When Yunshu arrived at the Yun residence, the place was empty. The maid said everyone was out. She didn't care. She'd come back on impulse to get something anyway. She walked straight into the bedroom and headed for the corner beside the bed. Crouching, she dug through a pile of clutter until her fingers brushed an old, forgotten tin box. The metal was thick with rust, caked in dust, looking even more battered than she remembered. Yunshu pried it open. A musty smell hit her nose. Inside, there was nothing but a single yellowed notebook. She picked it up and began flipping through the pages. Delicate, graceful handwriting stared back at her. Some of the words had faded, but she could still recognize it as the original owner's script. Page by page, she read on, and the more she read, the heavier her mood grew. By the time she finished, a fine sheen of sweat dotted her forehead. Her hands were trembling slightly. The deep-rooted fear buried in the original owner's heart was clawing its way back to the surface. Yunshu dragged in a breath and shoved the fear back down hard. Shen Yishuang, your timing couldn't be better. Some debts are long overdue, she muttered, staring at the notebook. She pulled out her phone and logged into her system with practiced ease. Finding the message she'd received that day, she entered the phone number into the system. Seconds later, the screen displayed the current user's address. Yunshu stared at that address. A cold gleam flashed through her eyes. She stood, showered, and changed into sportswear that let her move without restriction. She pulled her hair up into a high ponytail at the back of her head. Then her gaze landed on the backpack she carried all the way here, the one still covered in insulting graffiti. Yunshu slung the bag over her shoulder, picked up the yellowed notebook, and walked out of the Yun residence. The bar. The place was still closed, the main door locked tight. Yunshu stood in front of the door and knocked. After a moment, a uniformed security guard came to answer. He took one look at her and assumed she was a customer looking to drink. Miss, we don't open until 8 p.m., you're way too early. I'm not here to party. I'm here for someone. The guard looked surprised but answered anyway. Even if you're looking for someone, it's still 8. Nobody's inside right now. Yunshu's tone stayed flat. Tell Shen Yishuan that Yunshu is here to see him. The guard's curiosity spiked. This woman was asking for the boss, and she carried herself nothing like those clingy hangers on. He hesitated, then picked up the phone and dialed. The call connected quickly. The guard relayed her message. The person on the other end told him to hold tight. About a minute later, the bar manager came down the stairs himself. When he spotted Yunshu, a deeply courteous smile spread across his face. Miss Yun, right? The boss is upstairs. Please, let me take you up. Yunshu nodded and followed him into the bar. The interior lights were dim, the air carrying a faint trace of alcohol. The manager LED heard through the first floor main room and up the stairs to the second floor corridor of private rooms. The bright light on the second floor cut a sharp contrast to the darkness below. Sunlight streamed through the windows, flooding the corridor and making the whole space feel almost harshly bright. Just as the manager and Yunshu reached a private room door, Shen Yishuan stepped out. He wore a cream-colored knit sweater, the hem casually tucked into white trousers. Despite the soft tones, he radiated zero warmth. He stood tall but carried a lazy air. With his striking features, people often got the false impression he was easy to approach. The manager bowed the instant he saw him. Boss, Miss Yun is here. Shen Yishuang waved him off. Yunshu looked at him with zero expression, her eyes cold and distant. A smile flickered at the corner of Shen Yishuang's mouth. His tone was familiar, almost intimate. Yunshu, come in. He stepped aside, and Yunshu walked straight into the room. Once inside, she swept her gaze across the space. Then she shrugged off her backpack, walked directly to the main sofa, and sat down. Her movements were crisp, decisive, no hesitation. Her presence sat heavy and cold in the room. Shen Yishuang watched her, curiosity pricking at him. This Yunshu was nothing like the one he ran into outside the company building that afternoon. Back then, she'd been terrified of him. Now she was detached, indifferent. Like a completely different human being. Shen Yishuan raised an eyebrow, intrigued, and studied her with sharp interest. Yunshu registered his gaze but didn't react. She just sat there in silence, letting him look. After a long beat, Shen Yishuan broke the silence. I didn't expect you to come find me on your own. Yunshu turned her head, her dark eyes locking onto him. A dangerous gleam flickered there. Isn't that exactly what you were waiting for? Shen Yishuan laughed and leaned back against the sofa. He looked at her with mild surprise. Everyone says you changed. Looks like they weren't wrong. And not by a little. Yunshu's voice dropped a few degrees, the air around them seeming to still. If you never change, sooner or later, you wind up dead. You really are full of surprises, Yunshu. Shen Yishuan's voice held genuine surprise, his eyes sliding over her with fresh calculation. And now you learn how to joke. Is that Fu Huaishang's influence? A faint, knowing smile touched his lips. But the moment the name Fu Huaishang left his mouth, the light in his eyes turned to ice. Yunshu's expression didn't shift. It stayed completely flat. Still, Yunshu, don't you think you owe me an explanation? How exactly did you end up as Fu Huaishang's fiancé? Shen Yishuan rose to his feet. His tall frame swallowed the dim light, casting a shadow that pressed down on her. Yunshu stayed on the couch, eyes narrowed as she stared up at him. When he stepped closer, the shadow swallowed her whole, as if he intended to consume her on the spot. The old Yunshu would have caught by now. But that girl was gone. She stood too, bringing them face to face, the space between them nearly non-existent. Who are you? Why exactly do I owe you an explanation? Her voice was cold and fearless. Shen Yishuan hadn't expected that. His brow furrowed, confusion flickering through his eyes. He searched her face for something familiar. He found nothing. You're not Yunshu. His voice shot up, and his hand lunged for her throat. She was faster. She sidestepped, quick as a reflex, and slammed her fist into his arm. The force was brutal. His arm went numb and he yanked it back. That's right. I'm not Yunshu. Because the weak, pathetic Yunshu is dead. Her voice dripped with bloodlust. Shen Yishuan narrowed his eyes, studying her. For a moment, he couldn't tell if it was a lie. Yunshu grabbed her bag from the couch and hurled it at him. He caught it on instinct. But then he saw what was written on it, and his face went dark. The bag was covered in insults. Different handwriting, different words. Not the work of one person. Don't look so surprised. Yunshu's voice cut through the silence. You started this. You bullied her first. So after you left, anyone could bully Yunshu. Anyone could write on her back. Anyone could hit her, curse her, humiliate her. You turned her into garbage at that school. Worthless trash everyone looked down on. You did that, Shen Yishuan. All of it. The words landed like a physical blow, freezing the entire room. Shock washed over his face. If Li Jun was the mastermind behind her death, then you were the executioner. Her voice was a judgment straight from hell. Yunshu, you're joking. A crack opened in his composure, but he forced it back into that arrogant smirk. You think this is funny? Her face stayed stone cold, her eyes like frozen stars drilling into him. Her voice was calm, but it carried an ocean of rage and bitterness. Because of your bullying, she lived every day in pain. Wishing she was dead. I thought your leaving would be the start of her escape from hell. Instead, it was just the entrance to another one. Each word was a blade, stabbing straight into his heart. His face drained of color. He looked like he was about to shatter. If you still think it's funny, then look at this. She ripped a yellow notebook from her bag and slammed it into his chest. He caught it. He stared at the worn cover. His hands wouldn't move. Shen Yishuang, you were her disaster. Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. She wanted to hit him again, more than once, but every time, the emotions the original Yunshu had left behind held her back. She couldn't stand to look at him any longer. She turned and walked out. Outside the club, night had fallen. Neon lights flickered along the street. Yunshu stopped and looked up at the empty sky. Her heart was a storm: anger, hatred, and something else. A strange sense of release. Everything you wanted to say, everything you wanted to do, I did it for you. This is the first time. And the last. Her voice was flat. From now on, you will never control me again. In the private room, Shen Yishuang held the yellow notebook. He couldn't bring himself to open it. Everything she just said played on a loop in his head. Finally, to prove he wasn't the disaster she'd called him, he flipped it open. March 5th. Today I saw Shen Yishuang in the multimedia room. The legendary school bully. He seemed really sad. I was sad too, because I was afraid to go home. March 9th. I saw Shen Yishuang in the multimedia room again. But he caught me today. He asked my name. I didn't dare not tell him. March 11th. Shen Yishuang pulled my hair today. It hurt so much. But I didn't dare say anything. I was scared he'd hit me. Yesterday he choked me. April 9th. I had a high fever today and didn't go to school. Yesterday Shen Yishuang threw me in the school pool and made me stay there for a long time. I wish I could stay sick forever. Then he wouldn't bully me. April 11th. Today I accidentally heard Shen Yishuang on the phone. He was saying something about his brother's death not being his fault. Then he threw his phone at me, and it hit my eye. Tonight, I can't see very well out of it. June 19th, Shen Yishuang gave me a bag. He said it was his symbol and I had to carry it every day or he'd kill me. He hit me today too, because at first I was too scared to take it. June 22nd, Shen Yishuang hit me again today. I don't even know why. I'm terrified just hearing his name now. June 25th, Shen Yishuang is leaving for another country tomorrow. Today he didn't hit me. He just made me sit with him for a long time. June 26th, today the kids in my class said I was Shen Yishuang's property. They wrote horrible things all over the bag. June 27th, during PE, some classmates cornered me in the equipment room. They tried to make me take off my clothes. I refused, so they beat me. A teacher found me and saved me. June 28th, today they dumped my lunch into a dog bowl and tried to make me eat it. I finally gathered the courage to ask them why they were bullying me. All I got was another beating and one sentence: if Shen Yishuang can bully her, so can we. July 1st, I got sick today. I wanted my mom to call the academy for me, but she refused. I had to go anyway. And they still wouldn't leave me alone. They locked me in the bathroom and pissed on me on purpose. I don't want to be alive anymore. July 3rd, I hate Shen Yishuang. I hate him so much. So much. November 9th, the seniors finally graduated. Nobody will hit me or shove me around anymore. I just wonder if these marks will ever fade. November 15th, everyone at school calls me a loser, an idiot. I never talk back. I'm too scared they'll come after me the way the others did. November 17th, I don't want to carry that backpack Shen Yishuang gave me anymore. But I'm afraid he really does have people watching me. I want to throw that backpack straight in his face. Shen Yishuang turned the pages, his breathing shallow. The thin little notebook weighed 1,000 pounds. He closed it, fingers locked around the cover. Yunshu, trapped in a bathroom by a pack of boys and girls. A girl with electric blue hair grabbed her ponytail and smashed her face into the tile. I heard she's with Shen Yishuang every day. She's definitely already slept with him. Shameless bitch. If young Master Shen already had you, why can't we stop pretending? Between the razor-sharp laughter and the filth they spat at her, Yoon-shu curled on the floor, arms wrapped around her head, trembling. Her uniform was stamped with footprints and soaked in gray water. The memory worked through him like a rusty blade, sawing into his chest bone by bone. His temples pounded. His fingernails bit into his palms until blood beaded through the cracks. He couldn't feel it. No wonder she'd written in her diary that she hated him. No wonder she just called him a sea of suffering. A disaster. Bang! Shen Yishuang kicked the coffee table. Crystal decanters and glasses crashed across the floor in a spray of liquor and shattered glass. Rage hit like a dam breaking, flooding every nerve. He could hear his own heart slamming against his ribs, hard and painful. Why did it have to go like that? He ground out, voice scraped raw. The first time he saw her, all he wanted was to pull her close. He hadn't been able to let her go. So why did he still let them tear her apart? He'd always treated her like property and forgotten what it meant for her to survive alone after he was gone. His eyes burned. Shen Yishuan tipped his head back. Back then, he really had been exactly that. A sea of suffering. Yoon-shu's personal disaster. At home, when Yoon-shu appeared in front of Fu Huaishang, the man who'd been brooding about spending the night alone lit up instantly. Why didn't you let me come get you? He took her hand and pulled her into his arms. I just finished meeting with Shen Yishuang. It was close enough to grab a cab straight from the lounge. Her tone came out calm and even. But the bodyguards near the door both tensed at the name. The Shen Corporation had been poking around lately. Fu Huaishang had been holding back because of whatever tie that man still had to his wife. Now the young mistress had brought up the name herself. Nobody could predict what would happen next. You went to see Shen Yishuang. Something flickered deep in the man's eyes, barely visible. He studied Yoon-shu, his expression unreadable. She nodded. Yeah. I gave his things back. But tomorrow you're buying me a new backpack. She gestured at her empty bag. Fu Huaishang's gaze followed. Sure enough, the backpack that had always gnawed at him was gone. That bag had been covered in cruel words, but Yoon-shu had kept using it. Even after they got together, she never replaced it. He'd always wondered if it stood for some private link between Yoon-shu and Shen Yishuang. He never thought she'd actually asked him to buy her a new one. He'd never asked about it because he chose to trust her. She had her own reasons, her own way of handling things. But watching the backpack actually disappear stirred something complicated in his chest. Okay. I'll get you one. His voice came low and rough, carrying weight he didn't name. Just then, Yoon-shu spoke, her voice pitched a little higher than before. Fu Huaishang. Look at me. Hearing his name, the man's body gave a small shudder. His unfocused eyes slowly gathered and settled on her face. From the moment she said the name Shen Yishuang, Fu Huaishang had not let himself meet her eyes. He wasn't sure what he was afraid of. Maybe he was afraid of seeing someone else looking back at him. But when his eyes locked with Yoon-shu's, hers were clear and steady. No hesitation at all. Something insecure flickered across his handsome features. Even locked in eye contact, he nearly looked away. Fu Huaishang, Shen Yishuang isn't anyone to me. He was just a disaster for the old Yoon-shu. What I did tonight was nothing more than helping that version of her. That's all. He might not understand, but she was telling him the truth. Then she pressed a hand flat over her chest. In here. It's only you. Fu Huaishang hadn't expected her to say that. His heart felt like it had been struck hard. Then came a rush of joy he couldn't hold back. He pulled her tight against him, as if she might vanish the next second. Yoon-shu felt the tremor running through his body while he held her. Sure. The longing in his voice was unmistakable. Say it again. The CEO who could overturn the world with a flick of his hand was not a man praying for a single word. Yunshu smiled at him and didn't hesitate. My heart only has you. Hearing her say it again, Fu Huaishan ducked his head and kissed her eagerly. Her forehead, her eyes, the tip of her nose, and then her lips. His tongue pushed in fast, claiming ground. Yunshu could barely breathe against the force of his kiss, but she didn't want to push him away. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his waist and kissed him back. Time froze. The whole world shrank down to just the two of them. A long moment later, Fu Huaishan pulled back slowly, still holding her face in his hands. His eyes went heavy-lidded, dark with nothing but love and pure adoration. Wife, I love you. For the first time, Yunshu truly understood what it meant to be loved like that. The sweetness flooded her chest, dizzying and inescapable, pulling her under until she didn't want to surface. In the study, Fu Huaishan stood tall and imposing before the floor-to-ceiling windows, lamplight carving shadows across the cold, perfect lines of his profile. His eyes stayed locked on the view outside. He said nothing. Li Jun stood in silence behind him, waiting. A lit cigarette dangled between Fu Huaishan's fingers, smoke curling upward into the stillness. The second he replayed what his wife had said earlier, the eyes in his gaze thawed in an instant. Then that softness twisted, sharpening into something lethal. No special treatment. Do what needs to be done to shun cooperation. He crushed the cigarette, the ember flaring once against the darkness. A cold smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Yes, young master. Li Jun gave a respectful nod and left the study. Fu Huaishan checked the time. Yunshu would be asleep by now. He showered in the study's bathroom, scrubbing the smoke from his skin. Then he moved into the bedroom on silent feet. The overhead lights were off, only the bedside lamp casting a soft, warm glow. He undressed and slipped carefully under the covers. When he reached out to pull Yunshu into his arms, his hand met something unexpected. The texture sent a shock through his system. Wife! His voice cracked with uncertainty. Yunshu heard him and slowly poked her head out from beneath the blanket. Just her head. Her eyes shimmered with amusement as she watched him in silence. Fu Huaishan's gaze dropped to her flushed cheeks, pink with shyness. He swallowed hard. Heat slammed through him, leaving his mouth bone dry. Yunshu noticed he was just staring, not reacting the way she imagined. A prickle of nerves crawled up her spine. She forced down her embarrassment, reached out one bare, pale arm, and brushed her fingers against his cheek. Husband! What's wrong? She read online that couples should surprise each other once in a while. But Fu Huaishan just kept staring. Nothing. Maybe she really should have bought the sexy lingerie. She was still mentally cataloging the flaws in her plan when the silent man finally snapped out of his daze. He seized her small hand, the one grazing his cheek, his grip so tight it felt like he wanted to crush her right into his own body. His voice came out hoarse, thick with barely leashed hunger. He locked eyes with her. Wife, do you know what you're doing? His gaze had been cool before. Now it burned crimson, blazing like a wildfire. Yunshu nodded. I do. She delivered it seriously. But judging by your face, it didn't really work. At that, Fu Huaishan's lips curved into a wide smile. He leaned in, his whisper brushing hot against her ear. Wife, did I ever tell you something? Yunshu blinked at him, confused. Why was he bringing this up now? What? His voice dropped even lower, rough with intimacy. Even without any of this. One blink from you, just one, and I'm already losing my mind. The words had barely left his mouth before the crimson in his eyes exploded into full flame. Fu Huaishan flipped her, pinning her beneath him, his body caging hers with raw possession. Cool kisses fell against her skin like scattered rain, each one a spark igniting every nerve in her body. Yunshu trembled uncontrollably. His heat and hunger crashed into her like a tidal wave. The truth was, Yunshu's plan hadn't failed. It had worked too damn well. The second his hand had touched her bare skin, his entire body had seized up as if she cast a spell. This was only their second time being intimate since they signed the marriage papers. Unlike the first time, all awkwardness and shy hesitation, Yunshu got completely swept away by Fu Huaishang's passion. So swept away that they didn't stop until daybreak. "Wife!" His voice sounded beside her ear, his large hand gently stroking her flushed cheek. Seeing her too exhausted to even open her eyes, Fu Huaishang's chest swelled with aching tenderness. He went to the bathroom, filled a basin with warm water, and wet a towel. Returning to the bedside, he cleaned her body with slow, careful hands. He held back as much as he could tonight, but he still didn't want Yunshu feeling any discomfort tomorrow. He grabbed the ointment, applied it lightly to any place that might ache, then carefully dressed her in clean pajamas. Every movement was meticulous. When everything was taken care of, Fu Huaishang finally allowed himself to relax. He climbed into bed and fell asleep beside her. The next morning, Yunshu woke up close to 9. Monday. Her first class wasn't until 10, but she was still running late. She scrambled out of bed, yanking on her clothes. Just as she was about to dash to the bathroom, Fu Huaishang pushed the door open. "Wife, you're up." He had his phone in one hand, like he'd just wrapped up a call. "I'm going to be late," Yunshu said, anxiety spiking as she headed for the bathroom. Fu Huaishang fell into step right behind her. "Don't rush. I'll drive you." As he spoke, he handed her a toothbrush already loaded with toothpaste and set down a cup filled with warm water. "Okay." Yunshu took them and started brushing. She moved fast. From getting out of bed to finishing her morning routine and being ready to walk out the door, the whole thing took less than 10 minutes. Breakfast happened in the car. Rushed as it was, Fu Huaishang made sure she ate well. The Rolls-Royce pulled up directly in front of the classroom building. By the time Yunshu walked into the lecture hall, there were still over 10 minutes before class. "Boss, why are you so late today? You look like you didn't sleep well." Go Hongshuang's voice carried a note of worry. Yunshu shook her head. "It's nothing. I was just up late last night. Took me a minute to get moving this morning." "Oh. Make sure you nap at lunch then," he said. Got it," Yunshu said. San Hao-chen noticed the old backpack was gone. "Hey, boss, did you switch backpacks today?" "Yeah, I swapped it out. The old one's history." "That's what I'm talking about. Should've ditched that thing ages ago. This one actually fits you." She deserved a high-end designer bag, not some cheap slap in the face. San Hao-chen pulled out his phone and opened the school's website. The latest announcement was already on the homepage. "Boss, look. Mu Yun got written up. School-wide demerit and an official warning." Yunshu took the phone and scanned the notice. She hadn't expected the administration to move that fast. As for Mu Yun, she couldn't even be bothered anymore. The girl wasn't in her league. Too childish. "Oh, did you work on the set last night?" She handed the phone back. "Yeah, almost done. Just the final security layer and it's locked tight." "Good. Let me know when you wrap it up." The bell rang before she could say anything else, and the teacher walked in. Shen Corporation. The stock had been sinking since the opening bell. The entire executive team was scrambling, but no one could find Shen Yishuang. Just as panic started to set in, Zhou Qimeng appeared at the office. She called a meeting to coordinate a response, but the second everyone settled around the conference table, the door slammed open. Bang! The sound cracked through the room. Every head turned toward the source. Shen Yishuan stood in the doorway, black suit, eyes bloodshot. Zhou Qimeng flinched and scrambled to her feet. "Stepmother!" He strolled in, lazy and unhurried, a lit cigarette between his fingers, trying to take over Shan Corporation. The image of him like that terrified her, but she forced herself to hold her ground. Shen Yishuang, what nonsense are you spouting? The company's been struggling since this morning, and no one could track you down. I had to step up. He let out a laugh that never touched his eyes. You step up, huh? Don't forget. You're only good at stealing other women's husbands. Running a business. That's not your skill set. The words landed like a blade. Every executive in the room immediately dropped their gaze, pretending they hadn't heard a thing. Shen Yishuang, I have a marriage certificate with your father. I'm not a mistress. The husband-stealing accusation made her backpedal, panic leaking into her voice. But he kept pressing, like he was enjoying it. You're legitimate now. But back then, you know what you were. She jabbed a trembling finger at him, unable to form another word. He didn't care. He walked to the head of the table, dropped into the chair, and crossed his legs. Zhou Qimeng, the old man's dead. Your shield is gone. Stop showing your face around me, and maybe I'll let you hang around a little longer. The cigarette butt flicked from his fingers and landed right at her feet. She jumped back several steps. I knew you were behind what happened to your father. You just admitted it, didn't you? Admitted it? Shen Yishuang looked genuinely amused. He glanced at the executives below. Did any of you hear me admit anything? Zhou Qimeng looked at them with desperate eyes. Hope drained from her face. A full minute passed. Not a single person said a word. You're all disgusting. She screamed at them. Honestly, she couldn't blame them. They were just employees. Nobody wanted to stick their neck out over a family feud and risk their career. Enough. Shen Yishuang's tone flipped in an instant. Take the little madam back and keep her comfortable. If she comes out again trying to play boss, you're all fired. Yes, sir. The bodyguards in black suits strode through the door, grabbed Zhou Qimeng by both arms, and started dragging her out. Let go of me. Shen Yishuang, are you trying to put me under house arrest? Let go. Let me go. No matter how hard she struggled, the guards hauled her out. The conference room door swung shut again. Shen Yishuang faced the room and made his announcement. As of today, Shen Corporation will partner with the Xia family of the United States. Get the cooperation details ready. A jolt of excitement shot through the executives. The Xia family. Pillars of Wall Street. They dominated the financial world for a century. When Shen Yishuang had announced the end of their partnership with Fu Corporation, everyone feared Shen Corporation would take a massive hit. But this changed everything. If they could lock in a deal with the Xia family, Shen Corporation might actually stand a chance against Fu. Brilliant move, Chairman Shen. With you at the helm, Shen Corporation will reach a whole new level. Alright, meeting's over. He had zero time for their flattery. Shen Yishuang stood and walked out, leaving a dozen more compliments frozen on their tongues. An abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Shen Yishuang came straight here after leaving Shen Corporation. 4 bodyguards in black stood watch outside. Boss, everyone's been brought in, the lead guard reported. He gave a curt nod and strode inside. The warehouse was packed with garbage and debris. A row of men and women knelt on the filthy floor, hands tied behind their backs, black blindfolds covering their eyes. 22 of them. Every single person who bullied Yunshu after he'd gone abroad. At the sound of footsteps, they squirmed and shifted nervously. Who the hell are you? Why did you drag us here? One of the bondmen spoke, his voice trembling with fear. The guards placed a chair for Shen Yishuang. He sat, crossed his legs, and lit another cigarette. After a long drag, he flicked his hand. The guards ripped off the blindfolds. The sudden light stabbed their eyes. They blinked frantically, struggling to make out who had taken them. When their vision cleared and they saw his face, shock hit every one of them. S.H. Shen. Young Master Shen. The man who'd spoken earlier was Li Jun. Back in school, he tried to worm his way into Shen Yishuan's crowd, but Shen Yishuan had never given him the time of day. Young Master Shen, when did you get back? Li Jun tried to close the distance, his voice syrupy with fake familiarity. No one else dared to speak. They still had no idea what his game was. You. Li something, right? Shen Yishuan's gaze landed on the man directly in front of him. Li Jun straightened, a surge of hope sparking through his chest. The small talk earlier must have landed. Li Jun, young Master Shen. You remember me, don't you? I treated you to drinks a few times before. Oh. Right. You. A cold flicker of recognition crossed Shen Yishuan's face. His eyes shifted, landing on the short-haired girl next in line. Class 3. Name. She flinched like he'd struck her. Young Master Shen, it's routine. I wrote you a love letter once. The confession dragged color into her cheeks. Shen Yishuan nodded. Said nothing. He let his gaze crawl over each of them, one by one, the furnace inside him climbing toward a full blaze. The group knelt in dead silence, hearts hammering. None of them had a clue why they'd been brought here. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Shen Yishuan caught a sideways glance at the bodyguard beside him. Let all of them. No one missing. All here, boss. Every single one. Then let's not waste time. He crushed his cigarette underfoot and straightened, settling his shoulders like a man settling into a show. Yes, sir. A dozen men in black moved in. Wait. Young Master Shen, what is this about? Li Jun scrambled forward on his knees and got a boot to the ribs for the effort, flat on the ground before he could blink. Young Master Shen, what did we do? This is illegal, Shen Yishuan. I'll sue. The protests erupted in a frantic burst, but Shen Yishuan offered no explanation. The bodyguards surged forward, and within seconds the warehouse dissolved into a chorus of screaming. In a hotel near the school, Yang Zhu had shown up first thing that morning under the pretense of going to class. The one person she had been trying and failing to reach, Su Songyuan, had finally called her himself and told her to meet him. She had planned on making him wait, her anger still fresh. But she knew the school disciplinary notice was coming today, and she could not stomach the humiliation of being there when it did. So she came. Su Songyuan had just finished with her. She was in the bathroom now, the shower running. He lay back against the pillows, cigarette trailing smoke toward the ceiling. When she stepped out, the acrid haze hit her nose. She grimaced and fanned the air in front of her face. Su Songyuan took amused note of her irritation and deliberately pulled in another long drag. God, you are so annoying, she snapped. He finally crashed the cigarette out. Anyway, you didn't let me talk earlier, so I'm asking now. Where have you been this whole time? I couldn't get through to you at all. A flash of guilt crossed Su Songyuan's face before he masked it with a long-suffering sigh. My mom locked me into some exam prep. Studying from dawn till midnight, no phone. The second I finished and got it back, I called you. He pulled her into his arms. Really? She didn't sound convinced. His hand shot up in oath. I swear. If I'm lying to my baby, may I? She pressed her palm to his mouth. Fine. I believe you. Don't say things like that. Relieved that she bought it, he peppered her cheek with kisses and let his hands wander. He was about to pull her back into bed when she pushed him away. Her expression tightened into something serious. Zhang Jiayun. I need to tell you something. He waved it off. Later. We've got all day. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. He tried again. She pushed him away again. Can you just listen to me for 1 minute? The look on her face made him stop. All right. I'm listening. Go ahead. A shy smile curved her lips. I'm pregnant. His expression turned to us. You're what? He was sure he had misheard. I'm pregnant. Almost 2 months. I went to the hospital yesterday. The doctor said the baby's healthy. She got up and fished the test report from her bag. Su Songyuan stared at the grainy black and white image, and only one thought screamed through his head. This baby has to go. And he was done touching Yang Chu. This thing between them was over. She had had her hooks in him from the start. Now, with a kid, she would bleed him dry. If this ever got out and his family caught wind of it, he was finished. Zhang Jiayuan. Why aren't you saying anything? He snapped back into character and cleared his throat. Happy? Of course I'm happy. This is the fruit of our love. I'm just overwhelmed. No. He could not let her weaponize this pregnancy. But getting her to willingly get rid of it was not going to happen. He would have to trick her. His mind was made up. Yang Zhu relaxed at his words. Already imagining herself married into the Su family, her smile turned radiant. So, when are you taking me to meet your parents? After 3 months I'll start showing. I won't look good in a wedding dress. She stroked her stomach, picturing herself in white. Baby, listen. This news is incredible. Let me go home and tell my parents first. Let them get everything ready. Then we'll set up a meeting between both families. Alright. Reading his response as a sign of responsibility, Yang Zhu didn't press. Fine. But hurry. The baby and I will be waiting. She leaned in and kissed his cheek. Su Songyuan felt nothing. After school that afternoon, Fu Huaishang came to pick Yunshu up himself. She was heading down the stairs when she spotted his tall frame. He was waiting for her at the base of the teaching building, completely exposed. What are you doing waiting down here? She asked, walking toward him as envious stares and a few open-mouthed looks tracked her every step. He gave her a slow, fond smile. I wanted to be the first thing you saw. He took her backpack off her shoulder, his fingers brushing hers. His hand closed around hers, and they walked together toward the parking lot. Down the tree-lined path, autumn leaves crunched softly beneath his shoes. He held her hand, squeezing gently every few steps, savoring the tender weight of her fingers laced through his. Lots of homework today. His deep voice carried a faint, cool scent that seemed to sharpen the air around them. Not really. I finished everything at school. Good. Then I'll take you somewhere soon. Okay. Yunshu didn't ask for details. Guests rippled through the students lining both sides of the road. Girls stopped mid-step to stare. Whispers tangled with the click of camera shutters, threading through the breeze. A few bold ones raised their phones to snap pictures, but the second they caught Fu Huaishang's icy glare, they clutched their devices and turned away. Not one of them could hold his gaze. The Rolls-Royce glided out of the school gate. Just as the car was about to turn, a white Bentley cut in ahead, blocking the path. The driver hit the brakes. The speed was low, so neither passenger felt more than a gentle dip. Through the window, Shen Yishuang's eyes sliced straight to Yunshu in the back seat. The moment she rolled her window down, he shouted, Yunshu, I need to talk to you. Yunshu's face went cold. She rolled the window right back up. Her voice was flat as she said to Fu Huaishang beside her, I had nothing to say to him. She barely knew Shen Yishuang. Whatever the original host of this body had felt for him belonged to someone else. Not her. She'd already dealt with the fallout yesterday. The emotions lingering in this body wouldn't control her anymore. Fu Huaishang gave a slight nod. Then his voice dropped to us. Go through. Yes, sir. The driver floored the accelerator. The Rolls-Royce slammed straight into the white Bentley. A deafening crunch split the air. The Rolls shoved the Bentley aside, clearing the path, then swerved smoothly and sped toward their destination. Inside the Bentley, Shan Yishuang was unhurt. But watching the taillights disappear, his face darkened to stone. Fu Huaishang took Yunshu to dinner first. Lately, the chefs there had been developing a slate of special dishes. Fu Huaishang had taste-tested them personally, and tonight they finally hit the menu. After one bite, Yunshu was raving about every single plate. When the chefs heard they'd won over the madam, they were over the moon. Their salaries got a very nice bump soon after. Leaving the restaurant, Yunshu noticed a fresh Rolls Royce waiting by the curb. She didn't mention it. Inside the car, she watched the city give way to the outskirts and asked, "Where are we going?" "An auction house." "Jewelry." She guessed. He shook his head. "Antiques." "Art." Still a no. Before she could try again, he said, "Hold that thought, sure. It's a surprise." "Fair enough." She could wait. The venue sat on the outskirts like a private resort. The massive parking lot was already packed with luxury cars, every surface gleaming with quiet wealth. Their owners, the city's elite, turning this normally secluded spot into a hub of activity. The driver eased them into a wide reserved space near the entrance. Fu Huaishang's exclusive spot. Impossible to miss. The car stopped. Fu Huaishang and Yunshu stepped out together. A few steps later, Yunshu's eyes lit up. "They're auctioning horses tonight." A faint scent of hay drifted through the air. She tracked it to a temporary stable nearby, where a few horses stood calmly munching on feed. Fu Huaishang caught her excitement, and a fond smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Yeah. The kind you love. There are some excellent ones on the block tonight. See if anything catches your eye. If you like it, we'll bring it home." Yunshu nodded eagerly. Yes. Horses meant way more to her than gold or diamonds. At the entrance, staff were already waiting. As they approached, an attendant stepped forward with flawless professionalism. "Good evening, Mr. Fu." "Good evening, madam. Please follow me." He led them inside. The moment Yunshu stepped through the doors, she realized this place was anything but ordinary. From the outside, it looked above average. Inside, it was another world entirely. The decor was outrageously luxurious. Handwoven carpets lay underfoot, so soft every step felt like walking on clouds. Diamonds studded the pillars, glittering under the lights with casual opulence. She glanced up. The ceiling was plated in gold foil. Beneath the chandeliers, it blazed with breathtaking brilliance. She drew a breath and caught the difference instantly. The air here was thicker. Maybe double the oxygen outside. She silently admired the owner's genius. Not only did the man know how to build a lavish atmosphere, he understood the small details that kept customers around. With extra oxygen, no one got drowsy. They stayed longer. More time meant more chances to showcase and sell. Smart business. The attendant guided them straight through the main hall to their reserved private room. Inside, soft lighting spilled over the elegant decor, wrapping everything in a comfortable, refined warmth. Li Jun and Sun Haochen were already there, sprawled on the sofa mid-conversation. Li Jun wore a tailored suit. Sun Haochen was in casuals, looking as smug and punchable as ever. The instant they saw Yunshu and Fu Huaishang step in, Li Jun cut his conversation short and strolled over. "Brother Huaishang, sis-in-law. Long time no see." Yunshu smiled. "Yeah, it has been. Not since the shooting match nearly a month ago." Sun Haochen stood up too, a smirk curling his lips. "Little sis-in-law, how's school treating you?" "Hitting the books hard." He put on his best elder brother voice, teasing. Before Yunshu could answer, a chill shot down Sun Haochen's spine. He spun around. Fu Huaishang's eyes were fixed on him. Cold as ice. Fu Huaishang knew instantly he'd crossed the wrong line. His grin froze, then vanished as he straightened up fast. Hey, why, I was just messing with your girl. Don't be mad, okay?" Shen Wangzhong shook his head. You never learn. Every time Huai cuts you some slack, you go looking for trouble. By now, he was used to Gu Hongshuan's self-destructive streak. They took their seats. An attendant brought out fresh fruit and tea. After a few minutes of small talk, the auction began. The venue was arranged with the stage at center. Bidders sat in curved rows around it, and Fu Huaishang's private booth overlooked the viewing platform. Perfect sight lines, no distractions, and definitely not cheap. Chimeng, I hear there's an antique necklace on the block tonight. Stunning piece. How about we get my man Huai to loosen up that wallet a bit? Gu Hongxian winked at Zhou Chimeng. If I like it, I'll buy it myself. Your Huai doesn't have a dime right now. Zhou Chimeng shrugged. She wasn't joking. Over dinner, Fu Huaishang had told her he transferred all his assets into her name. Hers alone. No way. Huai is broke. Gu Hongxian didn't believe that for a second. Fu Huaishang watched Zhou Chimeng's profile and let a soft, adoring smile cross his face. My wife is right. All my money is with her. I'm broke now. Come on, Huai, you can't be. Gu Hongxian started to argue on instinct, but Shen Wangzhong raised a hand, cutting him off. Wait. Huai, did I just hear you right? You said wife. Oh Shen, I told you, you're out of touch. Couples throw around husband and wife all the time now. Why are you so? Zhou Chimeng pulled her gaze away from the auction stage and looked straight at Shen Wangzhong and Gu Hongxian, her expression dead serious. We got the marriage certificate. He's my husband. Those simple words, dropped so casually, nearly knocked their jaws to the floor. That's right. I'm her husband, and she's my wife. Fu Huaishang backed her up without missing a beat. Shen Wangzhong recovered first. He raised his teacup toward them both. Congratulations, Huai. Congratulations, sister-in-law. He put weight on those last two words. Thanks. Zhou Chimeng lifted her cup in return. Fu Huaishang gave a slight nod and draped his arm over the back of Zhou Chimeng's chair, his whole posture radiating one clear message. She's mine. Gu Hongxian finally caught up. Huai, you keep quiet and then you drop a bomb like that. You barely dated, and now you're married. I take back everything I said about you ending up a monk. He looked like a man who'd just been handed a death sentence. The second word of Fu Huaishang's marriage got out, his own mother would start blowing up his phone. Again. He barely clawed his way out of the arranged dating trap. Now this. Married. Life was just cruel. They chatted and joked through the opening performances and dances. Then the real auction started. A male host in a tailored suit stepped onto the stage. After a brief introduction, he announced the first lot. An attendant in a high-sleeved chipao carried up a tray draped in red velvet, set it carefully on the display stand, and stepped back. The host described the item. The attendant lifted the velvet cloth, revealing a goblet encrusted with multicolored gems. Spotlights hit the piece, and the crowd gasped. Wow, look, the cup changes color in the light. Yeah, the host said it's an artifact from ancient Egypt. But the price won't be cheap. Murmurs rippled through the room as the host announced, our first lot. The multicolored antique goblet opens with a starting bid of. He paused, letting the eager eyes soak it in. 5 million. Reasonable enough. The bidding began. Inside the private booth, Fu Huaishang and Shen Wangzhong drank tea and talked business. Zhou Chimeng stepped out onto the balcony with Gu Hongxian to watch the action. Gu Hongxian sneered at the frantic bidders below. Desperate match. The good stuff comes later, doesn't it? He had a point. Auctions usually start with smaller items and save the best for last, sometimes not even for public bidding, just for VIPs. If nobody bids, the atmosphere dies. Half these people are shills. Zhou Chimeng glanced down twice, then turned back for a sip of tea. Gu Hongxian frowned. Chimeng, this auction house has a solid reputation. They wouldn't do that. See that couple in the third row. The guy in the first row. Those two girls in the fourth row. The guy and girl in the fifth row. Watch. Every time someone else raises a paddle, they follow right after. Zhou Qimeng sipped her tea slowly, her tone calm. Gu Hongxian looked. She was right. Every time someone bid, those people copied it immediately and never by much. Qimeng, even if that's true, it doesn't prove anything, he said. Could be coincidence. Zhou Qimeng turned to watch with him. Notice the rings on their right hands. All of them. Gu Hongxian squinted. Sure enough, every single one wore a ring, men and women alike. Coincidence? That was too much. He didn't even like wearing rings himself. That ring is a signal. If the person running the show thinks they can push the price higher, they send a vibration through a chip in the ring. The shields keep bidding. But if the price goes too high, they stop. Gu Hongxian didn't look away. He listened as Zhou Qimeng explained, watching closely. Bingo! Right when the bid hit 8 million, every single one of them stopped raising their paddles. A pot-bellied man won the goblet at 8,010,000. Gu Hongxian spun around and gave Zhou Qimeng a huge thumbs up. Qimeng, you're incredible. Last person I admired this much was Hua. Now it's you. But how do you know all this stuff? He asked, genuinely curious. Books. Yunshu answered, easy and casual. It wasn't really from a book. Back in that other world, she'd seen 1,000 variations of these same cheap tricks. Today was just a coincidence. Which book? Give me the title, sis-in-law. I'll look it up when I get home. San Hacheng was actually into weird facts like this. What are you two talking about? Fu Huaishang's voice cut in from behind before Yunshu could answer. He strode over, slipping an arm around her waist and pulling her close. I was telling San Hacheng he should read more. Read more? Sis-in-law, do you even know what San Hacheng's grades were like in school? Gu Hongxian jumped in, but didn't get to finish. Gee, that's enough. I've got a good image in my sis-in-law's eyes, don't screw it up. These so-called friends were always trying to throw shade. So damn annoying. Honestly, it wasn't that great. Just average. Yunshu teased him, clearly in a good mood. Sis-in-law, don't do me like that now. Even she was piling on. Laughter rippled through the group as the auction carried on below. Shen family villa. Shen Yishuang hadn't set foot in this house in 2 years, not since he was sent abroad. Now he was back, but he still didn't stay here. He kicked open the iron gate. The servants heard the noise and came running, but the second they saw him, they all shrank back like ostriches burying their heads, not daring to make a sound. Shen Yishuang stalked into the living room, scanning the familiar furniture, the careful arrangement. His eyes turned cold. He headed straight for the study on the 3rd floor. It looked exactly the same as it always had. He took in the room, then walked around the desk and sat down, propping his long legs on top of it. He lit a cigarette and smoked in slow, measured drags. Zhou Qimeng got word and rushed over. The moment she saw Shen Yishuang, she flinched at the eyes in his expression. You, what are you doing here? She asked, forcing herself to sound bold. Shen Yishuang didn't answer. He finished the whole cigarette before he finally looked at her. Zhou Qimeng. The old man is gone. How do you want me to deal with you? Shen Yishuang, I'm your stepmother. Even if your father isn't here, I'm still your elder. Zhou Qimeng struggled to keep her composure, careful not to provoke him outright. Elder? How? Shen Yishuang let out a dry laugh, like she just told him a joke. He rose from the chair, hands in his trouser pockets, and sauntered toward her with lazy menace. Something about that walk made Zhou Qimeng want to step backward. But before she could, his hand clamped around her throat like an iron vise. What are you doing? Let me go, Shen Yishuang. She screamed, clawing at his arm. He wasn't even squeezing hard. just holding her. If he'd been serious, she wouldn't have been able to make a sound. Zhou Qimeng. To be honest, you've been dead to me for 2 years. The words came out light, almost conversational, but they made her whole body tremble. I let you run loose all this time because I couldn't be bothered. But you actually thought you could play the elder with me. Don't blame me for what comes next. Shen Yishuan's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at her, gradually increasing the pressure on her throat. Now she couldn't make a single sound. All she could do was watch as the man in front of her smiled like a demon. A few moments later, Zhou Qimeng went limp. Shen Yishuan dropped her on the floor like trash. Take her away. Take good care of her. He directed the words at the bodyguard beside him, putting extra weight on the last two. The guard understood immediately. The study door clicked shut. Shen Yishuan walked to the window, then turned to stare at the corner where a potted plant sat. Time seemed to rewind 2 years. Shen Wangsheng swung the leather belt, striking Shen Yishuan again and again as he knelt in the corner. Every blow landed hard enough to send a spray of blood into the air. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. That woman forgot to give him his medicine. It's not my fault. Even as the blood poured from his wounds, Shen Yishuan roared back, stubborn as ever. You're still lying. If you hadn't hidden the medicine, would Qimeng have been able to find it? I think you're just jealous of your brother. He studied better than you, had a better personality than you. You're inferior to him in every way. Shen Wangzhong cursed him non-stop while the belt kept falling. Shen Wangzhong, don't blame your incompetence on me. You couldn't save your own son, so you take it out on me. Fine, Shen Yishuang. You dare talk back to me like that? I'll beat you to death. Shen Wangzhong flew into a rage, lashing the belt down without mercy. The sound of the beating echoed through the entire Shen house. That night, Shen Yishuang was beaten within an inch of his life. When they finally took him to the hospital, the doctors issued critical notice after critical notice, but it was the servants who signed them. He lay in a coma for 3 full days and nights before he finally woke up. Thinking about it now, Shen Yishuan's story and Yunshu's had a lot in common. Both lost their mothers young, both had fathers who remarried fast, both ended up with half-brothers. Except his half-brother had been frail from birth, suffering from severe asthma. That was why Shen Wangzhong doted on him so much. And his stepmother. She was the same venomous woman who wanted Shen Yishuan dead so her own son could inherit the Shen Empire. She'd been scheming against him ever since he was a child. But there was one simple difference between him and Yunshu. She endured the abuse from her stepmother and stepsisters, taking it in silence. He fought back. Whatever trick Zhou Qimeng pulled, he returned in kind. And that, over time, was how the rumors about young Master Shen's unpredictable temper got started. 2 years ago, his half-brother died because his asthma medication couldn't be found in time. Zhou Qimeng had twisted things so that Shen Wangsheng believed Shen Yishuan had hidden the medicine and was indirectly responsible for the death. So Shen Wangsheng nearly beat Shen Yishuan to death, then shipped him off overseas. That night's beating still felt like yesterday. He could still feel the sting of the belt against his skin. Blood seeping out, soaking into the wooden floorboards. The crimson spread, burning itself into Shen Yishuan's eyes. Crash! A deafening noise shattered the silence in the study. A moment later, Shen Yishuan walked out and said to the bodyguard, "Tear this study apart. Burn everything inside." "Yes, boss." The Shen servants gathered in the garden, watching as every piece of furniture from the study was carried out piece by piece and thrown into the roaring fire. The auction was nearly over, and Yunshu still hadn't spotted anything she liked. Gu Hongxian had snagged a pair of cufflinks for 10 million, but other than that, none of them had bought a thing. "Sure, if those horses didn't do it for you, we can fly to Europe in a few days and look at more," Fu Huaishan murmured close to her ear. Yunshu shook her head. "Don't worry about it. Some things only show up when you stop looking. The horses were fine. They just weren't mine. Good horses, sure. But that sparked the connection at first sight. It either hits you or it doesn't. Let's go home, she said, turning to Fu Huaishang. All right. Home. They laced their fingers together and walked out. Shen Yishuang and Gu Hongxian trailed close behind. Outside the auction hall, most guests were still inside for the lottery drawing, so the parking lot sat mostly empty. Gu Hongxian climbed into Shen Yishuang's car. He'd had a few drinks and wanted Shen to take the wheel. They were just about to wave goodbye to Fu Huaishang and Yungshu when a sharp, piercing whinny split the air and froze them all in place. Every head turned toward the temporary stable next to the auction hall. A second whinny followed, and Yungshu's heart lurched. She dropped Fu Huaishang's hand and ran toward the sound. Fu Huaishang bolted after her. Shen Yishuang and Gu Hongxian scrambled out of the car and followed. When they reached the stable, a worker was lashing a gray-white horse with a whip, hitting it hard. The horse was in agony. It reared, hooves flailing high, and let out a miserable, ear-splitting scream. Yungshu stood frozen. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Miss, get back. This horse has gone crazy, it'll hurt you. The worker shouted, panic rising in his voice. The horse suddenly broke free of its halter. It thrashed back and forth, trampling the feed trough and scattering hay everywhere. Yungshu's heart slammed against her ribs. Her eyes stayed locked on that white horse, her hands trembling at her sides. Sure, watch out. Fu Huaishang's voice came from behind as he reached her and pulled her close. Sister-in-law, stay back, that horse is out of control, Shen Yishuang said, stepping closer. The worker raised the whip again, and Yungshu detonated like a powder keg. She screamed at the man, stop. Her voice cracked through the air like a thunderclap. It startled everyone there. Even the frantic horse quieted, just a little. Fu Huaishang had never seen Yungshu this worked up. It surprised him, but more than that, it worried him. The worker, shaken by her outburst, stumbled backward a few steps, stammering, but this horse is insane. If I don't hit it, it'll come after me. Yungshu wasn't listening. Her gaze stayed fixed on the white horse, and she murmured under her breath, no. It won't. Confusion rippled through the people around her. What did she mean, it won't? These horses were brought in from all over. They had strong tempers and needed serious training before they'd accept a rider. How could she be so certain the horse wouldn't hurt her? Fu Huaishang tightened his arm around her waist, afraid she'd rush forward without thinking. Sure, don't be reckless. That horse is dangerous right now. But Yungshu acted like she hadn't heard him. She turned to Fu Huaishang and said, Fu Huaishang, it's okay. Let me go. It won't hurt me. Trust me. He looked into her determined eyes. He knew that once Yungshu set her mind on something, nothing could change it. Gu Hongxuan's voice was tight with worry. Sister-in-law, you really can't go. If that horse keeps acting like this, they'll probably put it down soon. At the words put down, Yungshu's whole body jerked. The emotion in her eyes broke open like a dam giving way, raw and overwhelming. She stared at Fu Huaishang, her resolve unmistakable. And Fu Huaishang knew nothing he said now would stop her. Okay. I'm coming with you. He took her hand, and together they walked slowly toward the white horse. Seeing this, Gu Hongxian and Shen Yishuang understood there was no point in trying to hold them back. Shen Yishuang's hand drifted to the small of his back. If the horse made one threatening move, he was ready to step in and protect them both. The white horse saw the figures approaching. It grew alert and let out a high, sharp whinny, even more frantic than before. Yungshu's chest tightened at the sound. On instinct, she released Fu Huaishang's hand and took a single step forward alone. She stared deep into the horse's eyes, as if searching for something hidden there. Xiaobai, it's me, her voice quivered, unsteady. But the frantic animal didn't seem to hear. She drew a breath and called out, louder this time. Xiaobai, it's me. Look at me. The horse didn't stop pacing. It kept stomping, the sound scraping against her heart. Xiaobai, it's me. Don't you remember me? This time, the horse seemed to catch her words. It stopped. Stood perfectly still, its eyes fixed on Yunshu. The screaming whinnies softened into quiet snorts, as if it was trying to recognize her. Xiaobai, it's me, her voice brightened, hope threading through it. She stood motionless, watching the horse, tears already pooling in her eyes. At her repeated call, the horse finally knew her its one and only master. It trotted over, its dusty head brushing gently against her body. Its tail swayed back and forth, a happy, eager rhythm. Joy flooded Yunshu's heart like a rising tide. She threw her arms around the horse's neck and held on tight. This was her Xiaobai, her only companion from the parallel world. He had saved her when she was near death more times than she could count. They had lain together on the ground under the stars more times than she could remember. He was family. If she regretted anything about leaving the parallel world behind, it was only Xiaobai. She had thought of him so many times. So many times it hurt. The first man couldn't believe his eyes. Wow, look at that. She was right, the horse isn't going to hurt her. Now it's totally calm. If I hadn't seen it for myself, I'd never believe it. The second man lowered his hand from his lower back and nodded. Yeah, she's really something. Xinyu, let's take Xiaobai home. Fu Huaishang stepped up beside her. Yunshu finally remembered the man behind her. She let go of Xiaobai's neck and took Fu Huaishang's hand instead. Xiaobai, this is my husband. We're married. The horse seemed to understand her perfectly. The moment the words left her mouth, Xiaobai did something no one expected. First, it turned its head toward Fu Huaishang and let out a sharp, ringing snort, a challenge. Then it deliberately stomped its hooves in front of him, each step echoing like thunder. But that wasn't the most shocking part. Xiaobai reared, forelegs lifting high until its body was nearly vertical. The hooves slashed through the air as if they were about to crash down on Fu Huaishang. Everyone held their breath. Just as the hooves reached their peak, the horse seemed to sense something was off. Its eyes locked onto the unmoving man. That wild, untamed gaze met his, and in an instant, it softened. Fu Huaishang stood perfectly still, calm and composed. His deep eyes carried an undeniable authority. Xiaobai bristled under the man's presence. Its tensed muscles slowly relaxed, and the restless hooves settled. The horse lowered its forelegs, planting them firmly again, as if the whole outburst had been nothing but a brief tantrum. Okay, Xiaobai. Don't you trust who I chose? Yunshu stroked the horse's forelock gently, smiling. Xiaobai blinked its big, round eyes and let out a soft whine. Yunshu laughed at the adorable sight and pinched its nose. You're such a worrywart, always testing people. What a clever little thing. Xiaobai shook its head and nuzzled her hand, acting affectionate. But only the horse knew the truth, it had been terrified by the man's presence. If it weren't so loyal to Yunshu, that burst of power might have hurt it. Xiaobai grumbled inside, I thought you were all alone out here. Turns out you found yourself a seriously strong man as a husband. Guess I worried for nothing. So, sis-in-law, does the horse consider you its owner now? The second man and the first man walked over. Yunshu shook her head. Xiaobai is family. She kept petting it, reluctant to let go. The second man watched the once wild horse acting so docile in her hands and got curious. He reached out to touch its back. The moment his hand got close, Xiaobai whipped its head around and glared at him, clearly saying, touch me and you're dead. He yanked his hand back and jumped a step away. Sis-in-law, your horse is terrifying. Xiaobai is well behaved. Don't say that, or it might really get angry and then you'll know what truly terrifying means. Back at the training base, someone had badmouthed Yunshu behind her back. Xiaobai had snuck out that night and trampled him into pulp. The second man shut his mouth. A bodyguard walked over. Young master, Mrs. Fu, the auction paperwork is done. I'll take the horse back. Yunshu nodded. She patted Xiaobai's neck. Be good. I'll see you at home. Xiaobai flicked its tail at her. The group left quickly, with the bodyguard driving the horse transport truck behind the convoy. At a residence, it was already late. Everyone else was asleep, but in one bedroom, the light was still on. When the final complete button flashed on his screen, a young man covered his mouth and screamed with excitement. He'd finally finished. This was the first website he'd ever built from scratch, with the highest security level and the largest data source he'd ever worked with. Looking at the piles of documents beside his computer and the handwritten notes covering his bed, he couldn't help but cry. It had been so damn hard. Once he calmed down, he went back to the computer and pressed the enter key with a trembling finger. The machine restarted. When it came back up, the desktop showed the homepage for number 1. He messaged Yunshu, but got no reply all night. Dawn broke, sunlight piercing through the clouds. Yunshu woke early. After washing up, she headed straight for the stables. The workers were already busy feeding the horses. When they saw her coming, they stopped and greeted her respectfully. Good morning, Mrs. Fu. She smiled and greeted them back. She walked to Xiaobai's stall, pushed the gate open, and said to the sleeping horse, Xiaobai, let's go for a morning workout. Xiaobai let out an excited neigh and immediately got up to join her. Yunshu saddled it expertly, adjusted the reins, and swung herself up with ease. Let's go, Xiaobai. At her command, the horse shot out like an arrow, hoofs echoing through the estate. They galloped under the morning sun, grass swaying in their wake. After breakfast, Fu Huaishang dropped Yunshu off at school. She had barely stepped through the gate when a student who'd been waiting rushed up to her. Yunshu had been reviewing the website on her phone during the drive, and by the time he reached her, she'd finished. His eyes sparkled when he saw her. Before he could ask, she said, just finished reading it. It's good. Then, master, can we launch the site now? Yeah. From now on, you're in charge of everything on the site but don't cross any red lines. Yunshu made it clear, as long as it stayed legal, she didn't care what he did. Don't worry, master. I won't. About the split, I was thinking an 80-20 split, he said. You take 80%, I take 20. Does that work? No, she shook her head. 50-50. No. Master, I can't take a 60-40 split. That's insane. I told you we're doing this 60-40. I won't accept 40-60. Li Jun waved both hands like he was swatting away a live grenade. Panic bled through every word. Yunshu had pulled him into this business. Without her, the company didn't exist. How could he possibly walk away with more of the profit than her? She stopped walking and fixed him with a long, cold stare. 40-60. Take it or you're out. Li Jun's face twisted. Master. 40-60. One more word and I'll knock your teeth in. She raised a fist. He slapped both hands over his mouth, eyes wide with fresh terror. Seriously. Forcing him to take a bigger cut was bad enough. Did she have to threaten him, too? Having a master who hated arguing was absolutely exhausting. He kept his hand clamped over his mouth as he followed her into the classroom. They slid into their seats. Yunshu glanced at the desk that had been empty for days. Why hasn't Shangfu Muse been coming to class? Li Jun shrugged, barely interested. She said she's got some big competition. Took leave to train. Yunshu nodded and let it go. The bell rang. The homeroom teacher walked in. At the exact same moment, Shen Yishuan finally made it onto campus. The guard at the gate pulled the door open and grumbled that he'd been late way too many times. Everybody knew his face now. Shen Yishuan stammered out a flimsy excuse. The guard waved him through without bothering to write his name down. As he walked, Shen Yishuan kept checking over his shoulder, terrified someone was tailing him. Only when he was absolutely sure no one was there did he break into a sprint toward the classroom. But somewhere else, inside an underground gambling den, the men were already waiting. Shen Yishuan had thought he'd gotten away. But when break came, they dragged him straight back. Now he stood there shaking, staring at the tattooed man who sat nearby, shoveling seafood into his mouth and knocking back drinks like it was a celebration. Fear chewed through his gut. The man finished eating, wiped his mouth, and lumbered over. His fleshy face twisted into a sneer. Master Shan, you owe us money. You don't answer our calls. You've been hiding. You trying to stiff us. No, no, no. I'm getting the money together. I swear. Just give me a little more time. I'll pay everything back. Shen Yishuan's face had drained to chalk white. The terror in his eyes was genuine. A few weeks ago, he'd gone to the arcade with some classmates and met some so-called gambling expert. Back then, he'd been itching to start his own business, so he handed over his allowance and let the guy multiply his cash. At first, the expert delivered. He turned 100,000 into 1,000,000. But when Shen Yishuan wanted more, the guy suggested a high-interest loan to go for the big win. So Shen Yishuan borrowed 2 million. Then the gambling expert lost everything all of it. The loan sharks came straight after him. In 1 week, the 2 million he owed ballooned into 10 million. 10 million. Even Shen Wangzhong would need serious time to scrape that together. Terrified of losing a limb, Shen Yishuan had been running ever since. But they still found him. Master Shan, haven't you said that about 100 times now? I've got nothing but time today. How about I sit right here while you actually come up with the money? The tattooed man dropped into a chair like a king and watched Shen Yishuan shake. One of his men tossed a phone to Shen Yishuan. Call someone. Get it done. They released his hands. He clutched the phone, mind spinning. He didn't know who to call. He tried a few classmates. But they were all students. Even if their families had money, none of them could pull 1 million in cash out of thin air. After more than a dozen calls, he only managed to scrape together 3 million. That left his family. But who could he reach out to? His thoughts were a wreck. Shen Wangzhong had money. But the second Shen Wangzhong found out about the loan sharks, Shen Yishuan's life would be over. Yang Zhu was broke. He'd already swindled 500,000 out of her yesterday. Now his only shot was Zhou Qimeng. With trembling fingers, he dialed her number. The moment she heard he'd be dead without 10 million, she hung up on him. She said they were done. She had no money. And even if she did, she wouldn't help him. Cold sweat dripped down Shen Yishuan's forehead. He tried calling again, but she already blocked his number. Master Shan, your sister turned you down flat. Said you're dead to her. You wasting our time. The men were getting restless. No, no. Wait. Let me think. He was spiraling. 10 excruciating minutes passed. He still couldn't think of a single person to ask for a loan. The tattooed man's patience snapped. He smashed an empty bottle against the floor and stood. Master Shan, are you playing me? No, no. Draw some blood. He thinks I'm a vegetarian. No. Wait. Shen Yishuan thrashed wildly. 2 men pinned him to the ground. A guy with yellow hair stepped forward, swinging an iron pipe. Please. Give me one more chance. I have another sister. I still have a sister. My brother-in-law is Fu Huashang. In sheer desperation, Shen Yishuan screamed the words out. The tattooed man didn't even flinch. Instead, he burst out laughing. Ha ha ha. Fu Huashang is your brother-in-law. You're a hell of a storyteller. Why don't you just tell me he's your brother? It's true. Believe me. I have another sister. Fu Huaishang likes her. She's his fiancée. Shen Yishuan yelled with everything he had left. The man's eyes narrowed. The iron pipe was inches from Shen Yishuan's skull when he raised a hand. Hold it. I'll give you one last shot. Have that sister, the one with Fu Huaishang, for a fiancé, bring the money. If you're lying this time, I'll grind you into paste. Yes, yes, yes. I'll call her right now. I swear she'll get the money. Shen Yishuan was nearly out of his mind with terror. He thought about asking Yunshu earlier. But he bullied her when they were kids, and the shame had stopped him cold. Now he had no other choice. He could only pray she'd throw him a lifeline. He dialed Yunshu's number. It rang and rang. Just when he was certain she wouldn't answer, someone picked up. Hello? Shen Yishuan. My master's in the restroom. Call back. Yunshu ignored the call. It was lunch break, and she had slipped into one of the tunnel's side chambers, leaving her phone inside her desk drawer. She didn't want to answer. But the ringtone sliced through the quiet, and people around her were trying to rest. The screen lit up with Fu Xingxi's name. Li Jun grimaced and took the call. He planned to say a few words and hang up. He was exhausted, still too wired from the night before to think straight. Then Fu Xingxi's voice shattered through the speaker, raw panic. Li Jun, please help me. Don't hang up. Don't hang up. Li Jun's drowsiness vanished. What's going on? Where are you? He grabbed the phone and headed for the corridor outside the side chambers. Tell my sister I need 10 million. North Garden, Building B, Dungeon 3. Bring it there, or I'm dead. 10 million. What the hell? Li Jun demanded. The line went dead. Right then, Yunshu stepped out of the side chamber. Li Jun spilled everything, word for word. She took her phone, typed in the address, and pulled up real-time street images. Her eyes narrowed. She already recognized the kind of place this was. Master, what now? Li Jun asked, keeping his voice low. She slid the phone into her pocket, gave the floor bed below the tunnel entrance a brief glance, and started down the stairs. Why are you following me? She asked without looking back. Master, I want to see how this plays out. Can't sleep anyway. Li Jun grinned, but worry flickered behind his eyes. Sure, she could fight, but this wasn't small. If things went sideways, he might actually be useful. She studied him for 2 seconds, then said nothing. Li Jun drove them to the address. They parked and got out. The street was a grim stretch of shattered tunnels, blank doors, steel gates pulled down tight. Cigarette butts and crushed bottles littered the cracked pavement. These places only came alive at night. A city strip like this meant 3 kinds of businesses. Exactly what she expected. But how the hell did Fu Xingxi end up here? Li Jun stayed sharp, checking over his shoulder every few steps. An emergency number waited on his phone screen, ready to dial. Master, if things go bad, I'll grab the kid and run. You cover us. Yunshu gave him a flat look. He thought his plan was solid. Master could hold them off, no question. Time dragged. Fu Xingxi's last scraps of hope bled dry. Would Li Jun even deliver the message? Even if he did, would Yunshu actually come? She had every reason to hate him after how he treated her when they were kids. If she didn't show, he couldn't blame her. His own sister, Zhou Qimeng, hadn't given a damn. Why would Yunshu care? If only he'd apologized for real. At least then, if he died, he wouldn't have any regrets. He knew he'd been wrong. Boss, a guy and a girl just showed up. Gotta be the kid's sister. Didn't see Fu Huaishang, though. A red-haired lackey came running. The tattooed man stood. They bring the money. No. Empty hands. The tattooed man's face went hard, but he pulled it together. Fine. He could force a transfer later. Hey. You hear that? Your sister actually came. But no money today. Then both of you are staying right here. He drove his boot into Fu Xingxi with a grunt. Fu Xingxi barely felt the pain. All he registered was that Yunshu had come. His own blood sister ignored him, but the girl he bullied for years showed up. Some kind of irony. The iron door scraped open. Yunshu and Li Jun stood in the doorway. Yunshu! Get out! Leave me! Fu Xingxi scrambled up, shouting. The tattooed man kicked him across the mouth. Blood sprayed. Yun! Shu, go, please, just go, he choked, eyes locked on her silhouette, praying she wouldn't step inside. Shut the hell up! Nobody leaves without the money. The tattooed man roared. 4 or 5 thugs materialized behind Yunshu and Li Jun, eyes cold and flat. Moo! They shoved Li Jun. Hey, take it easy. We're here, so we're not planning to leave. Let's talk. Li Jun's voice held steady, thanks to months of hanging around Yunshu. She, meanwhile, had been completely calm since the moment she appeared. Not a flicker of the fear any normal girl would feel. She walked in. When she saw Fu Xingxi's bloody mouth, her gaze went cold. You're Fu Xingxi's sister. The tattooed man leered. Pretty little thing, in that school uniform. This could get interesting. Yunshu ignored the question. Why does he owe you 10 million? Her voice cut like ice. If Fu Xingxi had really gone down some dark road of his own making, she'd turn around and walk without a second thought. Kid borrowed money, couldn't pay up. Debt repayment is a matter of course simple. She looked down at Fu Xingxi. Why did you borrow from thugs? Before he could answer, the tattooed man cut in. Figured he'd get rich quick. Took a loan for a monkey show. I didn't, Yunshu. They set a trap. Fu Xingxi spat blood. I never even touched a table. They had an expert play for me. I saw the numbers on his phone. They're all in on it together. His eyes blazed. My only mistake was being greedy. The tattooed man heard Yunshu call them out on the setup, but he didn't flinch. What could a little thing like her do? She was just another piece of meat they could push around. So the young master isn't as dumb as I figured. Thought you'd just chalk it up to bad luck. He laughed, full of himself. Master, Fu Xingxi was set up. Gu Hongxian moved behind Yunshu and kept his voice low. She already knew. So what if he was? Nobody walks out of here without $1 million, the tattooed man snarled at Gu Hongxian. You got the money or not? No, Yunshu's voice was flat, her eyes perfectly calm. The tattooed man hadn't expected an answer that blunt. Rage simmered up his throat. He reached to grab them, but Yunshu spoke first. I'm taking him with me. He stared at her like she'd lost her mind. Hey, girl, you crazy? No money, and you think you can stroll out of here with him? He waved a hand in front of her face, checking if she understood who was in charge. Yunshu didn't have time for his games. Her right fist snapped out, knocking his filthy hand aside. Oh, you know some moves. He rubbed his swelling knuckles, face twisting. Boss, let us handle her. Soon as we take her down, we can have a little fun, yeah? The red-haired man leered at her. He'd been undressing her with his eyes since she walked in, never seen a schoolgirl this hot. Fine. Take her down, she's all yours. The tattooed man stepped back, and his crew surged forward, circling Yunshu. Gu Hongxian had already slipped over to Fu Xingxi and sliced through the ropes. Brother Gu, go help my sister. I'll hold them off. Fu Xingxi's voice cracked with panic. Gu Hongxian counted the bodies closing in around Yunshu, 10 of them. He shook his head. Kid, you might want to shut your eyes. Don't say I didn't warn you. Why would I close my eyes? Why aren't you helping her? Fu Xingxi didn't get it. He whipped around, shouting at Yunshu, Sis, I'm sorry. This is all on me, run. Gu Hongxian glanced at the bar iron door, then calmly sat on the floor. Master, I'm ready. Eyes closed. Go ahead. Fu Xingxi stared at him like he'd lost his mind. What kind of disciple just sat there? What had she even taught this guy? Shut up. We'll deal with your sister first, then you. The red-haired man turned back to Yungshu. Sweetheart, if you just apologize real nice to our boss, keep him happy, maybe we'll. He never finished. A sharp whoosh of air, and Yungshu's foot connected with his temple. He dropped, unconscious before he hit the ground. Too much talking. She looked down at him, eyes like ice. The tattooed man roared, get her. Whoever catches her gets her. Yeah. They all charged. At Fu Corporation, the conference room hummed with a quarterly report. Fu Huaishan sat back, barely listening. A bodyguard in black slipped in and leaned close to his ear. Boss, we just got word. Miss Yung went to the club. Her brother owes money to some thugs. She went to bail him out. Fu Huaishan shot to his feet, his face snapping into hard lines. A heartbeat later, he was already at the door, leaving the executives exchanging bewildered glances. Inside the Bentley, Fu Huaishan gripped his phone. The bodyguard in the passenger seat kept dialing. Call after call, no answer. Boss, our men still aren't picking up. His voice was tight. The air in the car turned razor thin. Those bastards wouldn't dare touch Miss Yung, would they? If they did, the boss would rip them apart. Floor it. Fu Huaishan's voice was ice cold, fury barely leashed. Yes, boss. Underground, chaos had erupted. Only the corner where Gu Hongxian and Fu Xingxi crouched stayed calm. 15 hired thugs, plus the tattooed man, scrambled to escape Yungshu's relentless assault. Grown men and none of them could touch her. Every time she moved, another body dropped. What kind of sister did Fu Xingxi have? Kid, you're damn lucky to have a sister like that. Gu Hongxian elbowed the stunned Fu Xingxi, real envy in his voice. Yeah. I'm lucky, Fu Xingxi answered without blinking. Sis. Behind you. A bald man swung an iron pipe straight at the back of her head. In the next breath, Yungshu twisted away in a blur. Before anyone registered the movement, the pipe was in her hand. One swing the bald man's skull cracked open. Ugh, Gu Hongxian forgot to close his eyes. Fu Xingxi shot him a confused look, then whipped his head back to his sister. What followed was a slaughter. Each strike of the pipe sent blood arcing through the air. Her expression never changed. She moved like a machine, every punch and kick met with brutal retaliation. Yungshu was cold. Terrifying. Facing men who wanted her dead, her eyes held nothing but bloodlust. The instinct of a killer, honed in a place where only the fallen survived. In that moment, she was back in that other world. The empty underground room echoed with thuds and pleas. Gu Hongxian gagged behind his hands. Fu Xingxi was terrified but he couldn't look away. Terrified of what she might do next. Terrified someone would jump her from behind. The Bentley ran 5 red lights before screeching to a stop at Beiyuan. Shen Wangzhong shoved the door open before the car fully settled and sprinted for the basement. A deafening crash split the air as he smashed through the locked iron door. The scene on the other side froze him in place. The empty basement was thick with dust, swirling like a storm had just torn through. A dim yellow bulb hung from the ceiling, spilling sickly light over the chaos. Yungshu stood in the center. A blood-soaked iron bar was clenched in her fist, still dripping. A dark red puddle spread at her feet. Her school uniform was splattered too. What had once been a white shirt was now a patchwork of crimson stains. Under her foot, the tattooed man was curled into a ball, moaning faintly, barely conscious. Around her, gang members lay sprawled across the floor, each one badly wounded, their clothes soaked through. Gu Hongxian was bent over in the corner, dry heaving. When the door crashed open, Shen Yishuan's head snapped up. He spotted Shen Wangzhong and scrambled to his feet, stumbling forward to plant himself in front of Yungshu, shielding her with his body. Xiu Shu. Shen Wangzhong's voice cracked. He wasn't sure he was looking at the same girl. Right now, she looked like death itself. At the sound of his voice, she turned her head slowly, deliberately. The overhead light caught her face. The bright red bloodstains stood out stark against her pale skin. Her eyes were hollow. Cold. Nothing in this world seemed to matter except that iron bar in her grip. Shen Wangzhong stepped forward, stopping beside Shen Yishuang, and looked past him at Yun Shu. Xiu Shu, are you okay? She stared at him blankly, then seemed to snap back. They're not. She pointed the iron bar at the half-dead bodies on the ground. They had it coming. As long as you're fine. Gu Hongxian fought back another wave of nausea and forced himself upright. He hurried over. Young master, let's go. He was worried she'd start acting strange again now that this guy was here. Big sis, let's go, Shen Yishuang echoed. Yun Shu turned to leave with them. Shen Wangzhong's voice rang out. Yun Shu, I need to talk to you. 2 minutes. Please. There was a raw, pleading edge to his words. Gu Hongxian and Shen Yishuang both looked at her. She gave a short nod. They headed for the stairs. Big sis, we'll wait for you on the main floor. The moment they stepped onto the main floor, the man walking toward them set off alarm bells in both of their heads. Make it quick. Yun Shu scowled at the blood smeared across her clothes. Shen Wangzhong dragged in a breath. Did Sha Shu really die? His voice shook. She tossed the iron bar aside. It clattered across the concrete. Dead. The scared one. The timid one who never fought back. She's dead. He braced himself for it. But hearing the words out loud hit him like a knife to the ribs. He didn't want to believe it. But the bodies on the floor told him everything he needed to know. Some were already lifeless. Others lay groaning in pain. Those were hard facts. No matter how badly Shen Wangzhong wanted to deny them, he couldn't rewrite what was right in front of him. The Sha Shu he knew would never have done any of this. Even if she picked up some fighting skills while he was away, the killing intent she just radiated, that bone-chilling stillness, wasn't something you learned in a dojo. That kind of edge didn't come from technique. It came from a body that had survived too many deadly fights. From a will that had learned to destroy without hesitation. Yuna. A low male voice cut through from the doorway. Fu Huaishang stepped into view, cold fury rolling off him in waves. San Haochen and Luo Zhongchen were right behind him. Fu Huaishang. The second she saw him, she walked straight toward him without a flicker of hesitation. He met her halfway, his gaze raking over her blood-splattered cheeks and hands. Are you hurt? Yun Shu shook her head. No. None of it's mine. Luo Zhongchen handed him a wet wipe. Fu Huaishang took it and began cleaning the blood from her face, his movements impossibly gentle for a man who looked ready to murder someone. Within moments, her face and hands were clean, her fair skin showing through again. Go wait for me upstairs, he said quietly. I'll be right there. Okay. She turned to leave. Shen Wangzhong's voice rang out behind her, raw with desperation. One last question. Did Sha Shu, did she ever feel anything for me? He stared at her back, aching for an answer. Fu Huaishang's eyes went glacial. The look he leveled at Shen Wangzhong could have drawn blood. But Shen Wangzhong didn't flinch. He met Fu's gaze head-on, fire meeting eyes. Yun Shu turned back and looked at him steadily. The Yun Shu who died. Yes. She had feelings for you. But she's dead. And her feelings died with her. Without another word, she turned and walked away. That left only Fu Huaishang and Shen Wangzhong in the basement. Up on the main floor, Shen Yishuang was already apologizing, guilt etched across every inch of his face. Big sis, I was wrong. I swear I'll never be greedy and cause trouble again. His voice was earnest, his words tumbling out in a rush. Gu Hongxian softened. Master, cut him some slack. The kid lost a few teeth. I think the lesson stuck. Yunshu wrinkled her nose, tugging at her blood-stained clothes, kicking at her ruined shoes. She hated that everything was filthy now. And the two of them wouldn't stop talking. Her patience snapped. Shut up. Both mouths clamped shut. They stepped aside, obedient and silent. A few minutes later, Fu Huaishan emerged from the basement. Shen Wangchong was not with him. The man's expression was carved from ice. Every step he took radiated power, his tall frame exuding an aura so overwhelming it pressed against the air itself. Yunshu noticed a spot of dust on his black shirt. He never left the house in a dirty shirt. She knew he must have gotten it in the dungeon. Whatever he'd said to Shen Wangzhong, whatever he'd done she didn't ask. Let's go. I need to change, she said, breaking the silence. Okay. He took her hand and started for the door. Shen Yishuang rushed forward, his face tight with fear. Sis, brother-in-law, I really messed up. Because of his greed, Yunshu had shown up. Shen Wangzhong had shown up. Even Fu Huaishan, the legendary ultimate power player few ever laid eyes on, had gotten involved. He had really screwed up this time. Fu Huaishan had intended to ignore him, but at the word brother-in-law, the cold edge in his eyes softened. Li Jun, take him back, Fu Huaishan said. Wait. Yunshu stopped and turned around. She looked at Shen Yishuang, her gaze steady. Wanting to be independent is fine. But first, figure out if you actually have what it takes. If anything like this happens again, I'll beat the crap out of you. A stunned silence fell. How could a woman who looked so delicate say something so brutal? Sis, I swear it won't happen again. Thank you for today. Shen Yishuang was genuinely terrified now. If she hadn't shown up, he might not have made it out alive. Yunshu ignored him, took Fu Huaishan's hand, and got into the car. Li Jun drove Gu Hongxian and Shen Yishuang back. In the dungeon, Shen Wangzhong massaged his swollen cheek and spat out a mouthful of blood. Fu Huaishan really was a demon. Back at the mansion, Yunshu went straight to shower and change. After she was clean and refreshed, her mood finally lifted. She carried the first aid kit into the study. Fu Huaishan was at his desk, dealing with a backlog. He'd been in the middle of a critical Fu Corporation meeting when the news came that Yunshu had gone to the office. He dropped everything to find her. Now he had to clean up the mess. Busy? She asked quietly. When he saw her, he immediately ended the video conference. Done. The executives on the other end stared at their screens, bewildered. Fu Huaishan got up from the desk. Yunshu stood by the sofa and waved him over. Come here. He walked over and sat down. Yunshu opened the first aid kit and took out the iodine. Your hand. He obediently offered his right hand. She carefully cleaned the wound with a cotton ball soaked in iodine, then gently applied ointment. When she finished, she closed the kit and looked up, meeting his dark eyes. Their gazes locked. The air in the room shifted slightly. Why didn't you ask? She said. She meant about her not being the real Yunshu. He understood exactly what she meant. His brow creased for a moment, then relaxed. He looked at her and countered, would asking change anything? Yunshu froze. She hadn't expected that answer. She thought he would doubt her, suspect there was something real between her and Shen Wangzhong. But he hadn't asked anything. He'd given her just that one line. I don't love your name. I love you. All of you. Everything about you. His voice was low and thick with tenderness. He reached out and gently brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. It has nothing to do with me. I don't care. The things about you, if you tell me, I'll listen. If you don't, I'll respect that. But it will never change the fact that I love you. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might leap out of her chest. What was she supposed to do? Her heart was telling her she was already completely gone for this man. She couldn't hold back anymore. She launched herself at him, grabbed his handsome face in both hands, and kissed him without hesitation. Fu Huaishang was caught off guard by her sudden boldness, but he quickly took control. The temperature in the study climbed. Just as he was getting her to the next level, there was a knock at the door. Ahem, Fu Huaishang came back to his senses first. He pulled her slightly open collar back together. Li Jun walked in after a quiet come in, but he noticed they both looked a little off. He didn't have time to dwell on it. Madam, the horse is making trouble in the stable. Because the horse was Yunshu's most treasured, the stable hands hadn't dared handle it on their own. They reported it to Li Jun. The horse. At the mention, Yunshu shot up. Yes. You'd better go see. It only listens to you. No matter how many awards the trainers had won, they were useless against Yunshu's horse. The animal was smart as hell and had the exact same temperament as its owner. If it didn't like the way you looked at it, it would just kick. None of the usual pre-fight winning. Straight to business. In just 2 days, it had already started several fights in the stable. Yunshu hurried toward the stable. Fu Huaishang followed. Outside the stable, the trainers and workers were huddled together, afraid to go in. From inside came a cacophony of whinnies and the stomping of hooves. See Yunshu, they all visibly relaxed. Madam, please take a look at the horse. She walked in. The place was a mess. The gate to the horse's stall was wide open. The horse was pacing back and forth in front of the other horses' stalls, snorting loudly, looking like it was ready to barge in and throw down. We were about to give the white horse a bath, a worker explained. But the trainer said to wash the other horses first, since they ran a long distance today and might get clogged sweat glands. The white horse seemed to understand. It kicked open its own gate, went over, and climbed right into the wash rack on its own. We tried calling it, but it ignored us. When it came back, it knocked over everything in the stable, then started threatening the other horses like this. Yunshu stared. That little brat really was something else. Just as the white horse reared up, its front hoof aiming for the lock on another stall, Yunshu spoke. White horse. She drew out the final syllable. The next second, that arrogant beast instantly became docile. Xiaobai swished her tail and walked up to Yunshu, her whole face a picture of pleading flattery. Yunshu clasped her hands behind her back, her expression stiff. She didn't reach out to pet her the way she always did. Xiaobai had lived with her for years. She knew instantly Yunshu was angry. The mare circled her slowly, tail never stopping, soft snorts aimed her way. She was nothing like the little terror from a minute ago. Yunshu's resolve crumbled. After all, Xiaobai was her only family in that world. And now she'd followed her here, going through who knew what kind of pain along the way. She softened. It's about who gets a bath first. You really got that worked up. Keep acting up and see what happens, she warned. Boundaries were necessary, a little muscle never hurt. Xiaobai snorted twice, then stopped pacing, though she still looked put out. Arrange it. Give Xiaobai her own private bath. Fu Huaishang's voice came from behind. Yes, sir, the butler said, already planning Miss Xiaobai's new wash. The man's cold tone suddenly sounded like music to Xiaobai's ears. She left Yunshu's side without a second thought, trotted over to Fu Huaishang, and gave him a friendly snort. Her owner's husband was terrifying, but his wallet was stacked. She picked a good one. At the Fu residence, Fu Xinyu walked in just as Zhou Qimeng and Shan Wangzhong returned from shopping. The butler had taken him to get his cuts cleaned up before dropping him off, but the bruise at the corner of his mouth was impossible to miss. Oh my god, honey, what happened to you? Zhou Qimeng shrieked. Shen Wangzhong hurried over. Fu Xinyu didn't want to be anywhere near Shen Wangzhong. He brushed it off. Nothing. Got hit during a game at school. Why weren't you more careful? What if your handsome face gets scarred? Zhou Qimen's face twisted with worry. Shen Wangzhong studied the wound, suspicious. That looks like someone punched you. What? Someone hit you? Who? Zhou Qimen's voice shot up. Shen Wangzhong played the protective uncle. Tell me who did it. Fu Xinyu wasn't buying any of it. Tell you. And who exactly are you? Zhou Qimen immediately snapped at him. What is wrong with you? This is your uncle. How can you talk that way? Fu Xinyu shot Shen Wangzhong a look of pure contempt. Uncle. You two know exactly what you really are. He was young, but he wasn't stupid. The way they acted around each other was nothing like relatives. It disgusted him. If Zhou Qimen weren't his own mother, he'd have kicked them both out of the full house himself. My father will come back. He shouted, then stormed off to his room. He left behind a fuming Shen Wangzhong and a frantic Zhou Qimen scrambling to smooth things over. Don't be mad, don't be mad. He's just a kid. And it won't be long now, right? She cooed at Shen Wangzhong. It took him a while to swallow his anger. He couldn't wait for that moment to come. At Imperial Garden, an autumn night breeze drifted through the estate, rustling the flowers into their own private rhythms. Yunshu had just stepped out of the bath when her phone rang. Li Jun. Master, a big order just came in. Think we can handle it? His voice buzzed with excitement. Their first real deal since the website launched. If they pulled it off, it would be a stellar start. Hold on. Yunshu didn't hang up. She logged into the site on her phone and started reviewing the details. After scanning everything, she confirmed, we can do it. But remember to scrub the traces. With this kind of info arbitrage work, nothing can be left behind. Li Jun listened closely. Got it, Master. I won't forget. Good. We'll talk later. The second she hung up, a tall, burning hot body wrapped around her from behind. She turned in his arms, concern flickering in her eyes. Are you running a fever? Fu Huaisheng shook his head. No. Then why are you so hot? Thinking about you made me hot. Yunshu blinked at him. Xiaobai interrupted us this afternoon. I've been burning for you ever since. His voice dropped, rough and low. When he said burning for you, he bit the words right off. His deep black eyes blazed, fixed on hers. He surged through her under his gaze, climbing from her feet straight to her heart. Then his restless palm slid quietly under her clothes. Everywhere his hand traveled, he left a scorching trail, like he meant to set her skin on fire. That afternoon in the study, he'd almost gotten his fill of his sweet wife only for Xiaobai to ruin it. The interruption had only made his desire burn hotter. Right now, he was nothing but a starving beast. Yunshu caught the weight behind his words, and a deep blush spread across her cheeks like ripe cherries. She saw the spark already roaring in his dark eyes, and her own heart pounded faster. Her fair little hands reached up and wrapped around his neck. A gentle tug, and he bent his head toward her until their noses touched, their breaths tangling hot and close. She gave him a slow, sweet smile. Then she rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his without hesitation. The kiss was deep and searing, as if trying to fuse their souls together. After a long, endless moment, her body softened, melting into his arms. He pulled her closer, and Yunshu let her eyes fall shut, letting him guide her into a world of heat and hunger and nothing but them. At 1 in the morning, the drowsy security guard stared blankly at the luxury car that had just slipped through the gate. Windsor Academy was a commuter college. No dorms. Nobody stayed on campus after classes ended. He'd been about to doze off when the discipline director called, telling him to let the car in and not to worry about whatever the person did. What the hell was someone doing at the school at this hour? The guard really couldn't figure it out. Shen Yishuang stepped out of the car and walked toward the familiar multimedia classroom. The room was pitch black. Only the campus streetlights filtered through the windows, casting just enough pale light to outline the empty space. His vision was blurred, but his memory was razor sharp. He walked straight to the 5th row from the back, 7th seat, and sat down. This was where he and Mu Yun first met. Back then, he'd been sitting right here, smoking off his frustration, when she accidentally stumbled in. She thought he hadn't noticed her. She hid 2 rows behind him, glancing at her watch, then sneaking looks at him. He knew she was there. He just chose to ignore it. So they stayed in the darkness, each lost in their own head. No words. No interaction. Just the weight of another person in the room. Time seemed to thicken around them. He didn't know how long it lasted. His eyelids grew heavy. Eventually, too exhausted to fight it, he drifted off. When he jolted awake, the classroom was still dark. The figure behind him was gone. A few days later, he ran into Mu Yun again in the same room. This time, she'd gotten there first. The moment she saw him, pure terror flickered across her face. Maybe he looked too intimidating. Maybe his reputation really was that bad. All he did was ask her name, and she was already trembling. But she stammered it out anyway. On a whim, he ordered her to come to the multimedia classroom every day after school. She didn't dare disobey. She showed up without fail. A few times, when his temper slipped its leash, he physically hurt her. He would watch her dark, white eyes fill with fear of him. He regretted it. The day before he left the country, he told her to wait for him in the classroom again. He wrote a letter of apology by hand and placed it inside a small envelope. The plan was for her to take it when she left and read it later. But she'd been too scared and forgot it entirely. The memories rose one by one, and every wrong turn he made cut into him like a blade. Blood dripped. Silent. Only the ache spreading deep inside. Shen Yishuang leaned back in that same seat, gripping the envelope tightly. Light from outside spilled through the window, breaking his silhouette into fragments. Half solid, half ghost. A long silence. Then a raw, strangled voice echoed through the empty classroom. Mu Yun. I'm sorry. I love you. Outside, the autumn wind stirred the trees. Golden leaves twisted through the air like butterflies, like his scattered thoughts, drifting freely but finding nowhere to land. Saturday morning. Sunlight flooded a cloudless sky. Mu Yun rose early. She pulled on her red riding gear, brought Snow White out from the stable, and started her workout. The air at the estate was crisp and clean. The grass stretched out like an emerald sea. She and the horse charged across the wide field. Snow White's coat was pure white, not a single dark hair anywhere. It shimmered silver under the sun. She ran like lightning, her hoofs landing soft on the grass, every stride packed with power. Mu Yun held the reins tight, riding with her horse, feeling the wind tear past her ears. After a while, Snow White slowed. She was spent. Mu Yun dismounted and watched the horse collapse onto the grass, sides heaving. She walked over and stroked Snow White's neck. Good girl. Then she dropped down beside her, letting her boots brush the horse's belly while she scratched her coat. Snow White half closed her eyes, soaking up the attention. In that quiet moment, they both basked in the simple joy of being together. Eventually, Mu Yun led Snow White back to the stable and gave instructions for the post-exercise care. Then she headed to the main house. Fu Xinyo had left for a business trip to Europe yesterday. He wouldn't be back until tomorrow. After breakfast, she went to the study. She just logged onto the top website when the phone next to her rang. Fu Xinxi. The second she picked up, he was shouting. Sis, come home. Now. Dad's in trouble. At the Su family home, every servant was scrambling, hauling things out. All of it goes. I don't want a single piece left. Su Zongyuan stood on the stairs, barking orders like he owned the place. Two workers sat a desk down in its designated spot and slipped away. One whispered to the other, "Why is the madam's cousin throwing out the master's things?" The second one checked over his shoulder before answering under his breath. "Are you stupid? Cousin? You still haven't figured it out. That's her lover." "What?" the first worker yelped. The second clapped a hand over his mouth. "Shut it. If he hears you, we're both out of a job." Okay. I'll keep it down. But if he's her lover, how does he have the nerve to walk in here and toss the master's stuff?" The sharper worker rolled his eyes. "I told you, you're stupid. How long has the master been gone?" "About 2 weeks, I'd say." "Exactly. You want my opinion? The master's either divorced or dead. Why else wouldn't he come home?" The first worker sucked in a breath. "Oh my God. Listen to me. When we go back in, act like you don't know a thing. Got it? We're just hired help. Doesn't matter who's in charge, as long as the paycheck clears. Remember that." But the first worker's head was still spinning, his mind racing through every dark possibility. They stepped out from their hiding spot just as a furniture delivery truck pulled up in front of the house. Workers unloaded brand new pieces and hauled them upstairs. Into the study. Into the bedroom. Su Zongyuan watched his expensive, carefully chosen furniture finally cross the threshold. For the first time in days, his foul mood began to lift. When Yunshu heard the commotion, she stepped out of the bedroom. She was dressed to the nines, head to toe red, like she was celebrating some grand occasion. "Oh, it's finally here. The one you've been dying for, right?" Zhou Qimeng beamed as she walked over to Shangfu Muse. Shangfu Muse pulled her straight into his arms. Zhou Qimeng glanced at the maids bustling downstairs, a flush creeping up her face. "Hey, everyone's watching. What are you doing?" "So what if they are?" Shangfu Muse wasn't phased at all. "Starting today, I want all of them to see. From now on, the name on this house is Shangfu." Ha ha ha. His laughter echoed through the living room, arrogant and triumphant. But before the song faded, an ice-cold voice cut through from the doorway. "Is that so? Let me see how you plan to pull that off." Yunshu walked into the living room with measured calm. She wore a pink and white tracksuit, Li Jun and a squad of black-suited bodyguards flanking her. Power radiated from her. At the center of the room, Li Jun pulled out a chair. Yunshu sat, legs spread wide, commanding the space like a queen. Her face was frosty. Her gaze swept the hall, and every person it touched felt a chill. The temperature seemed to plummet. The workers froze, then scrambled to the sides, terrified into silence. The moment Zhou Qimeng saw Yunshu, her face went pale. She practically flew out of Shangfu Muse's arms, as if zapped by a live wire. "What's this bitch doing here? Did she find out?" "No way. I covered my tracks." Zhou Qimeng couldn't figure out why Yunshu would show up at such a critical moment. Shangfu Muse showed no fear at all. He swaggered down the stairs, a smug grin plastered on his face. Well, if it isn't Yunshu. Perfect timing. I was about to have my wife call you. This property belongs to the Shangfu family now. It has nothing to do with Yu Yun's anymore. Yunshu didn't bother to reply. She simply lifted her eyes, and in that instant, Li Jun shot forward like an arrow. His fist, loaded with power, swung through the air and slammed into Shangfu Muse's face. A dull thud echoed. Shangfu Muse's body flew backward as if hit by a sledgehammer, crashing onto the stairs. Blood burst from his mouth and nose, splattering the floor. He lay in a crumpled heap, groaning, completely dazed. "Want to die? How dare you speak to the eldest daughter with such disrespect?" Li Jun's voice was ice. He stood firm, radiating a bone-chilling aura. The blow had Shangfu Muse seeing stars, his mind reeling. Zhou Qimeng reacted faster. She rushed down and helped him to his feet. She caught the bodyguard's words. He called Yunshu the eldest daughter. Could this little bitch really be engaged to Fu Xinyu? Never mind that now. She steadied herself. The priority was getting rid of Yunshu today. Once today was over, she wouldn't fear whoever showed up tomorrow. No matter how tough Yunshu seemed, she was still just a young girl. Zhou Qimeng refused to believe she couldn't outmaneuver her. She'd been a fox playing this game for years. She put on a sympathetic face. Yunshu, this is really a matter between me and your father. We run our course. We can't stay married. I gave him my all these years, so he gave me this house and the company. She pretended to be heartbroken, as if she truly grieved the end of her relationship with Shen Wangsheng. I know you're suspicious, but everything's been notarized. I can bring you the documents tomorrow, okay? Yunshu remained utterly calm. She regarded Zhou Qimeng with leisure, a faint smile ghosting the corners of her lips. Tomorrow? Her voice was cold, emotionless. Zhou Qimeng nodded. Yes, tomorrow. A spark of excitement flickered in her. Maybe Yunshu had bought it. But then Yunshu laughed. Ha ha ha. Zhou Qimeng, you've outdone yourself in shamelessness yet again. Zhou Qimeng's face flushed with fury. Instinctively, she wanted to jab a finger at Yunshu and curse her out, but the memory of the last beating kicked in. She swallowed the urge. Child, would I lie to you about something this big? If you don't believe me, call your father. She said it with confidence, certain of the preparations on that end. You know, your father has been grooming Nianchen as his successor since he was little. So giving us the company isn't strange at all. Yunshu leaned back in her chair, staring at Zhou Qimeng's face, a face she now found utterly ridiculous. Zhou Qimeng, you know I'm not one to waste words. I'm here to settle accounts today, not to listen to your made-up stories. She saw right through the stalling. No need to waste another breath. Zhou Qimeng's face crumpled, sweat beading on her forehead. Shangfu Muse, your so-called cousin and lover of 20 years. You bought 2 villas and 3 apartments in your hometown for a total of 24 million. You've taken 29 million from the company and handed it straight to him. You helped him win orders and set up fake contracts, pocketing 56 million. Are those numbers accurate? Yunshu's cold voice cut through the air. She was done wasting time. Boom! Zhou Qimeng felt her heart plummet and shatter on the floor. How does this little bitch know all that? She paid a fortune to hire experts to bury those financial tricks deep in the company's business. Not even the tax authorities could find it. How could she possibly know it that clearly? Yunshu, where did you hear that? Zhou Qimeng's voice rose with faint hurt. What villa? What shady contracts? None of it is true. Your father can vouch for me. She pressed a hand to her chest. I may not be your biological mother, but you can't go around making up lies like this. Lies? You don't get to decide that. Yunshu took the thick stack of papers Gu Hongxian handed her and flung them straight into Zhou Qimeng's face. The sharp sting of paper hitting skin. Take a good look. Recognize any of this? Zhou Qimeng scrambled to pick up a few sheets. Printed in black and white, records of the hacker she hired to tamper with Fu Xinyou's computer. You really went all out, Yunshu said, her cold eyes full of contempt. Too bad you hired a cheap amateur. He left evidence everywhere and didn't even realize it. Idiot. 2 bodyguards dragged in a man covered in blood, his face unrecognizable, and dumped him at Zhou Qimeng's feet. She shrieked and stumbled backward. The man looked up at her like she was his last lifeline, reaching out with a bloody hand. Zhou Qimeng, save me. You told me to do all those things. He fled to a hole in New Zealand, and Yunshu still found him. His hands were ruined. He'd never work again. You're lying. Zhou Qimeng backed away, trembling. This has nothing to do with me. Don't drag me into this. The man's face twisted. I'm lying, You bitch. I never wanted to do it. You seduced me over and over, paid me off. I only agreed because of you. Now you're pretending you had nothing to do with it. Fine. If you're going to screw me over, don't blame me for returning the favor. He turned his head toward Yoon-shu. Miss Yoon, the videos are in the lining of my mattress. There's also a recording of her telling me to read Mr. Fu's computer, live audio. You bastard. Zhou Qimeng screamed. Before she could get another word out, Shan Wangzhong grabbed her by the hair from behind. All the pain tore a sharp cry from her. Well, Zhou Qimeng, Shan Wangzhong growled. Paying him wasn't enough. You had to throw yourself at him too. That's not all, Yoon-shu added, her tone icy. The VP of Hueda Electronics, Luo Junchen, the one currently in custody, had a very close relationship with her. In fact, the reason he claimed he went back to his hometown was because Luo Junchen's wife caught them in bed and beat him black and blue. That was all it took. Shan Wangzhong snapped. He grabbed Zhou Qimeng by the head and slammed it against the stair pillar. You slut. 20 years he'd loved her. Even after she married Fu Xingyu, he waited. And the whole time, she was nothing but a whore. Beat her. Beat the bitch. The hacker on the floor cheered, still bleeding out. If he could stand, he would have joined in. Wangzhong, let me explain. Zhou Qimeng's words slurred, stars swimming in her vision. Explain my ass. Shan Wangzhong yanked her up and started slapping her face with his thick palm. Smack. 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 Wang Zhang. I'm sorry, The beating went on for 10 minutes. Yoon-shu sat back, lazily picking at her nails, watching the show. Finally, she waved a hand. The bodyguards shook Shan Wangzhong aside and hauled out the hacker, who'd already passed out from blood loss. Zhou Qimeng felt like she was teetering on the edge of death. She had no strength left to curse Yoon-shu, only her eyes could shoot poison. All right, appetizer's over. Time for the main course. Yoon-shu stood up, hands clasped behind her back. One at a time. Nobody's getting out of here today. She looked at the two figures across from her and smiled a bloodthirsty smile. At her signal, Gu Hongxian walked into the living room carrying an incense stick as thick as a man's wrist. The tip was already lit, acrid smoke twisting upward. Shan Wangzhong's gut clenched at the sight of it. Before he could figure out what was coming, two bodyguards stepped forward and pinned him down with ease. What are you doing? He struggled, panic bleeding into his voice. 15 years ago, you came to stay at the Fu house as Zhou Qimeng's cousin. You asked me to bring you water. A few drops spilled, and you stubbed out your cigarette on my arm. Yoon-shu's eyes turned to us. Remember that? Shan Wangzhong had long since forgotten. But now that she mentioned it, a vague memory surfaced. He'd only done it because he disliked Yoon-shu on Fu Xingyu's behalf. But this little brat had held on to the memory all these years. No, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. He scrambled for an excuse, but Yoon-shu cut him off. Too late for that now. Gu Hongxian. Both hands. Gu Hongxian stepped forward without a word. The incense tip glowed faint against the light, like a flame straight out of hell. Shan Wangzhong watched him approach, his body shaking uncontrollably. He tried to struggle, but they'd already tied him to the chair, completely helpless. Gu Hongxian stopped in front of him. No pity in his eyes. He raised the incense slowly and aimed the glowing tip at Shan Wangzhong's left arm, skin covered in a tattoo of flowers. Sizzle. The sound of burning flesh. Shan Wangzhong's hand jerked violently, his face contorted in agony. The bodyguards had gagged him, so only a low, muffled whimper escaped. Gu Hongshuan's hand was steady. He pressed the incense into the flesh, branding scar after scar, unhurried. Each mark sank deep, like the stamp of a demon. 15 scars, one after another. Shan Wangzhong's left hand was a ruined mess, the tattoo buried under bleeding, twisted wounds. Then Gu Hongxian moved the incense tip to his right hand. The same process played out again. The sickening sizzle filled the air as Gu Hongxuan's right hand met the same fate. Sweat beaded on his forehead, dripping down his face and mixing with his tears until it was impossible to tell which was which. From the sidelines, Zhou Qimeng watched, her face bone white. Her entire body shook with pure, primal terror. She scrambled backward into a corner, desperate to put distance between herself and whatever Li Jun was holding. Yunshu stood still, her expression perfectly serene. Back then, you burned me 3 times. Today, you'll feel it 30. I believe in being fair. I won't cheat you out of the interest you racked up over the years. The original owner had been 5 years old when that animal pressed 3 cigarettes into her skin with his own hands. She had cried for hours, drowning in pain. Then the blisters formed and got infected, over and over again. The burns left a palm-sized scar on her arm. The scars on this body had long since healed. But she made herself a promise she took this body, and she would take revenge in full. The bodyguard released the hand clamped over Gu Hongxuan's mouth. He had no strength left to scream anyway. He'd already slipped into unconsciousness. When Yunshu's gaze shifted toward her, Zhou Qimeng forced herself upright. She gathered every scrap of nerve she had left and spoke with frantic certainty. Yunshu, don't you dare act so cocky. I have your father. Lay a hand on me, and you'll never see him again. She had to play her trump card now. If she didn't, she was next. She'd tormented Yunshu for too many years. If Yunshu was planning to settle every single score, Zhou Qimeng knew she wouldn't live to see the morning. This was her only play. Sifu Huaishang. Yunshu wasn't exactly eager to see him herself. But he was the original owner's father. As worthless as the man was, he still held weight in her heart. Zhou Qimeng caught Yunshu's silence and assumed the threat had landed. A flicker of relief crossed her face. But only a flicker. Because in the very next second, Li Jun hit speakerphone. A familiar voice spilled out. Madam, Fu Huaishang's been taken. We've been caught too. The voice of her most trusted man. Her last remaining asset. Oh, and are you still waiting to hear back from the notaries? Yunshu asked, as though the thought had just occurred to her. Forgot to mention it, every notary office in the capital is shut down today. That little fantasy of yours isn't happening. The woman hadn't just kidnapped Fu Huaishang. She'd been simultaneously filing for company transfers and changes to the legal representative, trying to lock everything in as a done deal while dealing with Yunshu on the other end. What a schemer! No wonder Fu Huaishang hadn't noticed the thing for 20 years. No wonder Gu Hongxian had been so blindly devoted. Zhou Qimeng had nothing left. One miscalculation after another. Her only leverage gone. Years of plotting destroyed by Yunshu. At this point, she had no choice but to fight. A wild, unhinged look flashed in Zhou Qimeng's eyes. She snatched up a hammer one of the movers had left in the corner. Yunshu, if I'm going down, you're coming with me. She shrieked, raising the hammer and charging directly at her. Yunshu didn't flinch. She lunged forward, meeting Zhou Qimeng head on. Just before they collided, murder flashed across Yunshu's face. She kicked out hard, landing a brutal blow square in Zhou Qimeng's stomach. The force sent Zhou Qimeng stumbling backward until she slammed into the stairs. The hammer hit the floor with a deafening clatter. But Zhou Qimeng wasn't done. Determined to drag Yunshu to hell with her, she steadied herself and charged again. Madam, catch! One of the bodyguards ran down from upstairs, tossing a leather belt. Yunshu's reflexes were lightning quick. She snatched the belt midair and gripped it tight. The belt came alive in her hands, slicing through the air like a thunderbolt, striking Zhou Qimeng as she closed the distance. A sharp crack split the room. Zhou Qimeng flew backward like a snapped kite and crashed hard onto the floor in a pathetic heap. Yunshu stood motionless, looking down at Zhou Qimeng without a trace of emotion. The contempt in her eyes bordered on pure arrogance. Zhou Qimeng, do you remember this? She slowly lifted the belt, a cold smile curling at the corner of her mouth. The belt had been brand new once. But Zhou Qimeng, this vicious woman, had turned it into a tool for punishing the original owner over the smallest of offenses, until the latter was worn and frayed. Through endless days and nights, she had beaten the girl black and blue, split her skin open again and again, forcing her to grit her teeth and endure in silence. She had already said it. Nobody was leaving here today without paying their debt. Now, Zhou Qimeng would learn exactly what that belt felt like. Yunshu stepped forward. Her cold smile deepened. The belt began to fall in a steady, unforgiving rhythm. No matter how Zhou Qimeng twisted or dodged, she couldn't escape. Every strike landed with precision, the sharp sound slicing through the room. Yunshu, if you got the guts, just kill me. Zhou Qimeng's voice shattered into broken shards. Back then, I really should have strangled you. Her body jerked with every lash, but she didn't back. She kept shouting, defiant to the end. Nearby, Gu Hongxian regained consciousness. He watched the scene unfold, his heart aching. After all, he had once loved this woman. The belt kept falling, tearing into Zhou Qimeng's flesh. Her screams grew weaker. Gu Hongshuang's heart twisted painfully. He forced the words out. Shu, if you want revenge, take it out on me. But Shu didn't stop. The final blow came down with everything she had. A loud crack echoed through the room as the pure cowhide belt snapped clean in two. Zhou Qimeng's floral dress hung in shreds, exposing the raw, lacerated flesh beneath. Coming back to herself, Yunshu glanced at Gu Hongxian and nearly laughed. Take it out on you. She sneered. Guess a cousin really does stick with his cousin. Gu Hongxian stared at her, eyes wide with confusion. Did you know your precious cousin already sold you out? Yunshu's words cut like a blade. Gu Hongxian flinched. He stared at her, desperate for the truth. You're worried about her now? Give it a few days. You'll be worrying about yourself. Yangzhu took out a mountain of high-interest loans on the black market in your name. The money's already been moved offshore. And based on what I've seen, the repayment deadline is almost here. The aching Gu Hongshuang's chest hit harder than any beating ever had. He turned his head toward Yangzhu, who was already unconscious. Rage boiled up, and when he opened his mouth, fresh blood spilled down his chin. Pause. At the hospital, Fu Xinyu stood rigid outside the emergency room, praying under his breath, begging for Fu Huaishang to pull through. He didn't even notice Yunshu until she spoke. How is he? The second he saw her, his eyes swam. Sis. The doctor said it's bad. They told us to prepare for the worst. She glanced at the operating room's closed doors, then back at him. Stop the tears. Now. If a single one falls, I will beat you until you can't stand. It's my fault. If I'd just been paying attention, I would have realized something was wrong at home. Dad wouldn't have. That morning, Fu Xinyu had gone to Yangzhu's room to ask for his allowance. When he got close to the door, he overheard her arguing with Gu Hongxian. Curiosity got the better of him. He stayed and listened. They talked about tying Fu Huaishang up, claiming he was on a business trip, drugging him. They were arguing over whether to kill him today or wait until tomorrow. Fu Huaishang had always favored sons over daughters. He treated Fu Xinyu well ever since he was a child. Fu Xinyu loved him the most. So the moment he understood, he called Yunshu. He still wasn't strong enough to take on Yangzhu and Gu Hongxian alone. But it was already too late. When the doctor said to prepare for the worst, Fu Xinyu nearly collapsed. You know about your mother? Yunshu's face stayed unreadable. He nodded, his skin almost gray. I know the password to the house security system. Which meant he'd seen everything that happened inside the Fu house tonight, clear as day. He stepped closer, his voice steady but raw. Sis, I want to get a DNA test. Yun-shu understood. She looked into his eyes, saw the fierce determination there, and nodded. Take him. And bring Zhou Qimeng too. Yes, ma'am. Fu Xinyu followed the bodyguard a few steps, then stopped. He turned back and shouted, Yun-shu. I'm sorry. I was wrong before. You don't have to forgive me. When I get back, hit me, scream at me, do whatever you want. For a split second, the chubby little brother from the original owner's memories, the one who used to smile at her, seemed to stand right there. Pause. Fu Huaishang was in surgery for nearly 8 hours before they wheeled him out. During the 2 weeks he'd been missing, Yang Zhu and Gu Hangxian had held him captive, forcing him to sign documents and contracts with threats and drugs. But he had refused until the very end. That's why the doctor had warned them to prepare for the worst. Yun-shu looked at Fu Huaishang's emaciated body, and a cold weight settled deep in her chest. Fu Xinyu couldn't hold back any longer. He broke down, sobbing. This time, Yun-shu didn't reprimand him. The poison had already seeped into Fu Huaishang's organs, triggering multiple system failures. Death was coming fast. When the doctor told Yun-shu, she stood frozen, letting the words sink in. Outside the hospital room, the silence pressed down like a weight. Yun-shu stood at the window, her gaze fixed on the figure in the bed. She wanted to say something, but nothing came. Fu Huaishang lay there, his face drained of color. A ventilator forced air into his lungs. Tubes and wires covered his fragile body. In the corner, Fu Xinyu crouched on the floor, his face buried in his knees. His shoulders shook as tears streamed down without stopping. The bodyguard approached with a folder. Madam, the results are in. Yun-shu took the folder and flipped straight to the final page. After scanning the results, she walked over to Fu Xinyu. Look up. Her cool voice snapped him to attention. He lifted his head immediately. Call me by my full name again, and I'll knock your teeth out. She dropped the report into his hands and headed downstairs. Confused, Fu Xinyu picked up the report. He stared at it for a long moment, then shot to his feet. Sis, he called toward her disappearing figure at the corner. But Yun-shu didn't answer. Fu Xinyu gripped the report, reading it again and again. It was true. He was his father's son. He was Yun-shu's brother. Pause. In the hospital parking lot, a black Mercedes van sat tucked to one side. Inside, Zhou Qimeng's shots rang out, demanding to be released. No matter how loud she screamed, the bodyguards outside ignored her. When Yun-shu and the bodyguard approached, the guards pulled open the doors. Zhou Qimeng's eyes went wide. You, Yun-shu, you had me dragged here and let them take my blood. What the hell do you think you're doing? She'd been in her hotel room, daydreaming about marrying into the Su family and becoming their young mistress, when someone grabbed her, hauled her to the hospital, drew blood, and refused to let her leave. She racked her brain trying to figure out who was behind it. Now, seeing Yun-shu, she had her answer. Zhou Qimeng, you really have perfected that daughter flower act, haven't you? Yun-shu's tone was lazy, her gaze drifting down to Zhou Qimeng's stomach. Zhou Qimeng's hands flew to her belly. I'm warning you, this baby belongs to the Su family. If you so much as touch me or my child, the Su family will make you pay. She was bluffing. The Su family meant nothing in Fu Yanqing's world. Her phone was gone. She couldn't call the police or reach Su Xiu. This was all she had left. Yun-shu looked at her like she was insane. I kept you here waiting for the results. They're in, so now you can get lost. She raised a hand, and the bodyguards hauled Zhou Qimeng out of the van, tossing a few sheets of paper at her. Confused, Zhou Qimeng looked at the papers, then at the Rolls-Royce already pulling away with Yun-shu inside. What was this supposed to mean? Only after the convoy disappeared did Zhou Qimeng finally look at the report in her hands. 1 minute later, Her fingers dug into the paper. Her face went white. Her eyes burned red. She screamed toward the exit, her voice tearing apart. No! Yunshu, you liar! This report is fake. You're just jealous of me. I'll never be fooled by you. Yunshu was finishing dinner at the Fu residence when the bodyguard stepped inside. Mrs. Fu, the hospital is all arranged. 4 professional nurses on rotating shifts. Your brother didn't want to go home, so I had a rest room prepared for him. The money Lu Ting transferred has been recovered and deposited back into the Shen Corporation account. She's in prison now. I've made sure certain people will take excellent care of her. And the debt collectors located Mao Lu. Yunshu nodded. Got it. Thanks for handling all that. Only one loose end remained in the Shen family, Zhou Qimeng. But that was fine. That drama queen would dig her own grave soon enough. Yunshu just had to wait. It was the middle of the night. Yunshu was deep asleep when a tall, lean figure slipped into the bedroom. The man didn't turn on the light. He moved by memory to the bedside, stripped off his clothes, and pulled his sleeping wife into his arms. The whole day's exhaustion melted away the instant he held her. Sensing something different, Yunshu blinked her drowsy eyes open. Weren't you supposed to be back tomorrow? Missed you. Wanted to get home sooner. His voice was rough with fatigue, but underneath it hummed the quiet satisfaction of seeing her again. He planned to return tomorrow, but the head of the Fu household had no intention of sleeping alone. So he ordered the private jet to fly back overnight. He heard his wife had been busy today too, running between the Shen family and the hospital. Not wanting to disturb her rest, Fu Huaishan pressed a kiss to her forehead and patted her back. Go back to sleep, wife. Still half asleep, Yunshu drifted off again. Morning came. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the custom curtains, dripping the entire bedroom in a soft golden glow. Yunshu stirred, her eyes still heavy as she looked at the man holding her tightly. His face was sharply defined in the morning light, angular jaw, sharp brows, eyes like stars. Straight nose, thin lips pressed together. He was breathtaking. God, it felt good knowing this gorgeous man was hers. She lifted her head and leaned in to kiss him. But just as her lips were about to brush his, the seemingly sleeping man opened his eyes without warning. Deep black irises, still hazy with early morning drowsiness, yet somehow even more magnetic. His voice was slightly husky, lazy with sleep. Morning, wife. Yunshu quickly pulled back. Did I wake you? He'd probably gotten home around 4 in the morning. That meant barely 3 hours of sleep. She could see the faint shadows under his eyes. The corner of his mouth lifted in a faint smile. He shook his head. No. I've been awake for a while. Liar. You were sound asleep 2 seconds ago, she insisted. His smile widened. Without warning, he propped himself up, shifted his weight, and pressed over her. Suddenly, the distance between them vanished. She could feel every breath he took. He lowered his hips, the motion unmistakably suggestive, and Yunshu's cheeks flushed scarlet. His gaze turned dangerously intense, locking onto her eyes. Wife, do you believe me now? I really was awake. Flustered, she pressed her hands against his chest. If you're awake, then get up and... The rest of her words disappeared as his mouth claimed hers. Soon, the temperature in the bedroom rose. The sounds of their passion mingled with the morning light, making the sunrise feel even more brilliant. Outside, the bodyguard had already settled Xiaobai, but they'd been waiting for Yunshu for a long time. Even Xiaobai was getting impatient, stomping his hooves hard against the ground. Come on, Xiaobai. Mrs. Fu doesn't have time for a ride today. I'll take you out instead. He just spotted the maintenance crew working on the private jet, which meant Mr. Fu was back. Xiaobai glanced at the bodyguard, then lifted his head toward the stable entrance. Reluctantly, he followed the man outside. At the Su residence, Su Songyuan had staggered home at dawn after a night out and was dead asleep. But someone kept hammering on his door, making rest impossible. He yanked the door open and saw his mother standing there. "Annette," he growled. "Mom, what do you want?" "I just crashed." "Crash? Who's the girl at the front door looking for you? You better explain yourself right now. If your father wakes up and sees her, you're done for." Youngju stormed into the room, hollering. "What girl?" Su Songyuan's brain was still foggy. "She says her name is Zhou Qimeng. Claims you're not answering your calls, so she showed up here to find you." "Zhou Qimeng?" A jolt of adrenaline shot through him. He scrambled into his clothes and rushed out. In the living room, Zhou Qimeng sat dressed in an innocent, girlish outfit, studying the Su family's decor. No wonder they were an academic family. Every piece of furniture radiated culture and refinement. She touched her belly, imagining her child growing up in this very house. A smug smile spread across her face. Even if she wasn't Shen Wangzhong's real daughter, even if she wasn't the second Miss Shen, she could still laugh well. She'd be the respected young mistress of the Su family. "Zhou Qimeng, what the hell are you doing at my house?" A low growl from behind shattered her fantasy. She jumped up fast. Su Songyuan stood there in loungewear, his face twisted with irritation. Behind him stood his mother. "Zhang Jiayuan, I haven't been able to reach you for days," Zhou Qimeng said, forcing a shy smile. "I thought we couldn't wait any longer, so I came to find you here. Didn't I tell you to wait for my message? What's with showing up like this?" "What can't wait?" Youngju cut in, her voice sharp. Su Songyuan panicked. He grabbed Zhou Qimeng's arm, trying to haul her out. "It's nothing, Mom. She and I have some personal stuff. We'll deal with it ourselves." He shot Zhou Qimeng warning looks, but she refused to budge, planting her feet. Not caring that she was pregnant, he yanked harder. Just as Youngju was about to press further, a servant entered. "Madam, your guests have arrived." It was the weekend. Youngju had invited her friends over for a small gathering. And now, all the guests had arrived. "Fine. Take everyone out to the garden first." Youngju finished with the servants and turned to face them, her expression openly irritated. "Jiyu, my guests are already here. I don't care what's going on between you and her." She flicked a dismissive glance at Sunny Anru. "Whatever this is, settle it now. I don't want my friends disturbed." She strolled out of the living room without waiting for a reply. Su Xiu knew exactly how much his parents cared about appearances. With guests in the house today, if Sunny Anru caused a scene, his life wouldn't be worth living afterward. He lowered his voice, almost pleading as he looked at her. "Ni Anru, be good. You saw my mom has friends over. Let's talk about this another time, okay? Just leave for now." But Sunny Anru had come today fully intending to stay. Su Xinyue had already told the servants not to let her in, so she couldn't even get back into the Su residence. Hotels weren't a long-term solution. Her only play was to move into the Su house before word got out that she wasn't really Su Mingyuan's daughter. Tears welled up in her eyes. Her face twisted with pain, making her look utterly pitiful. She grabbed Su Xiu's hand and whispered, "Jiu, it's been 3 months. My belly is starting to show. You told me to wait, but the baby can't wait." Su Xiu seriously regretted not going to her last night. He'd never planned on keeping this child. He already had the pills from a friend. If he'd just given them to her yesterday, she wouldn't be standing here right now. But no, he'd been too busy having fun, figured he'd deal with it later. And now she'd shown up in person. Shit. He had to get her out of here first, then get her the pills later. He put on a concerned expression and softened his voice. "Baby, I know you've been through a lot. I want to marry you as soon as possible too, but today really isn't the time. You know my parents are both in education. There are outsiders here. If they find out I got you pregnant, they'll kill me. I'm begging you, at least for the babies. Baby? What baby? A roar from the staircase cut him off mid-sentence. Both of them jumped. Su Zongyuan was coming down the stairs, glasses perched on his nose, radiating the full authority of a lifelong educator. Su Xiu, say that again. He glared at his son. Damn it. Su Xiu's heart dropped straight through the floor. He cleared his throat, trying to play it cool. Dad, you misheard. We weren't talking about any baby. He shot Su Nianru a sharp look, signaling her to keep her mouth shut. But Su Nianru looked at Su Zongyuan as if he were her savior. She'd done her homework. In the Su family, Su Zongyuan had the final say. Once he decided something, it didn't change. And he was obsessed with saving face. If word got out that Su Xiu had knocked her up and abandoned her, it would drive him insane. Su Zongyuan clearly wasn't buying his son's act. He turned to Su Nianru, suspicion sharp in his eyes. Young lady, what family are you from? Su Nianru smiled politely. Hello, uncle. I'm Su Mingyuan's daughter, from Su Corporation. I'm your son's girlfriend. Su Xiu hadn't expected her to drop it all out there so plainly. He grabbed her jacket sleeve in a panic. Su Zongyuan nodded and sat down on the sofa. Watching his son's nervous expression, he pressed further. How long have you two been dating? Why the sudden visit today? Su Xiu was spiraling now. He stepped in front of Su Nianru, blocking her. Dad, don't grill her like that. She'll get shy. The moment the words left his mouth, Su Nianru burst into loud, messy sobs. The sound filled the whole living room. It was over. Completely over. Su Xiu knew that her crying meant he was finished. By midday, Shehan had caught up on sleep after traveling on business with Fu Yanchen. He got up, freshened up, and headed to the main building to report in. But the second he walked in, Lang Yan materialized out of nowhere and blocked his path. Young master and his wife are still resting. Shehan checked his watch. Bro, it's noon. He's still not up. Lang Yan nodded. Not just Fu Yanchen. The usually disciplined Su Xinyuan hadn't come downstairs either. TSK, getting married makes people lazy, huh? Shehan muttered in disbelief. Lang Yan gave him a cool glance and walked away without a word. Upstairs in the master bedroom, the two people Shehan was calling lazy had just finished their last round. Su Xinyuan had always thought she had great stamina, until she got together with Fu Yanchen. Now she knew there was someone far, far better than her. They'd come back at 4 in the morning, slept only 3 hours, then spent the whole morning exercising. Her whole body was still burning, limbs tangled with his. Having a husband with this kind of endurance was seriously exhausting. Wife, do you want to eat upstairs or go down? Su Xinyuan shot him a look. If she hadn't been keeping up her regular workouts, he would have completely wrecked her by now. He caught her expression and knew he pushed too hard. He put on a sheepish smile and leaned in close. Don't look at me like that. Every time you do, I want to. She was done. She gave him a thumbs up. You win. She grabbed a large towel, wrapped it around herself, and headed for the bathroom. We'll eat downstairs. Okay. Fu Yanchen got up and walked toward the other bathroom in the suite. By the time they cleaned up and made their way downstairs, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The kitchen was staffed around the clock, so no special orders were needed. The moment they appeared, servants laid out a delicious spread on the dining table. Su Xinyuan always had a good appetite. After a workout, it was even stronger. All she wanted was to bury herself in the food. They just finished eating when Shehan walked in. Young master. Madam. Fu Yanchen nodded slightly. Young master, the item has arrived. Hearing that, Fu Yanchen's mood visibly lifted. He took Su Xinyue's hand. Come see your car. My car? Su Xinyue stared at him, confused. When had she ever asked for a car? Fu Yanchen nodded. Yes. Your car. Yunshu stopped at the main entrance and her eyes locked onto the matte black luxury car. It sat there silent, a predator waiting. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. The driver handed her the keys, but she didn't get in. Instead she walked a slow circle around the vehicle, fingertips brushing the bodywork and the glass. One look was enough to know this car had been heavily customized. The lines were clean and aggressive, every curve with a purpose. A titanium alloy impact-resistant kit caught the light with a cold metallic gleam. Extra safety, extra attitude. Tiny diamond-cut sapphires set into the wheel hubs scattered prisms every time she shifted her angle. And the windows shimmered with a strange blue-purple tint. Not factory glass. Military-grade, armor-piercing resistant material. Bulletproof. The highest level of protection available. A car like this was already expensive. With these modifications, the value was astronomical. Yunshu knew cars. She caught every detail, every upgrade. You like it? Fu Huaishang's voice came from behind her, dark eyes smiling. Yeah. It's incredible. The customization was exactly her taste. The corner of his mouth lifted. He reached past her and opened the door. Take it for a spin. She grinned. Let's go. The leather seats adjusted automatically to the perfect angle. A holographic display flickered to life on the center console, projecting a floating navigation map into the air. Her fingers traced the delicate carbon fiber grain on the steering wheel and then she spotted a silver button beside the dashboard. Fu Huaishang stood by the door and followed her gaze. He leaned down to the window and said softly, press it. She did. A quiet click, and the roof transformed. The entire top became a panoramic starscape, deep blue light rippling across the bulletproof glass. It can switch to this starry sky mode or convert into a solid blast-proof steel panel in 3 seconds. The trunk also holds an emergency medical kit and a micro-defense system. Fu Huaishang sounded like a proud tour guide now. Yunshu started the engine. A low, guttural roar shook the air. She looked up at him, her smile blooming. Fu Huaishang. I love this car. He smiled back, soft and indulgent. Gently he reached in and brushed a stray strand of hair from her forehead. If it makes you happy, its value is already infinite. The driver stepped forward with a respectful bow. Madam, all roads around the estate are sealed. You may test drive now. Yunshu's eyes sparkled. She turned to the man beside her with a slight grin. Husband, you got the guts to ride with me. Fu Huaishang's smile deepened. It would be my honor to accompany my wife on a test drive. He walked to the passenger side and slid in with effortless grace. A deep, powerful roar, and the luxury car shot forward like an arrow. The driver jumped back, startled by the launch. His eyes went wide as the car shrank into the distance. He muttered to the bodyguard beside him, did the madam just floor it from a dead stop? The bodyguard gave a silent nod. The driver swallowed. Damn. First time I've ever seen someone test drive by flooring it from a standstill. 2 hours later, the engine rumbled back into the estate. After the car stopped, Fu Huaishang got out and opened the door for Yunshu himself. She stepped out and flashed him a wicked grin. Fu Huaishang. I don't have a driver's license. The driver nearly fainted. No license. She'd taken that car out with no license and floored it. Was this what people meant when they said skill outweighed fear? Fu Huaishang didn't look surprised at all. He'd been in the car. He'd watched every move she made, the silky turns, the blind spot reversing, the precise hill parking. None of it challenged her. She was in her element. Get the madam a license, he ordered. The driver snapped to attention. Yes, sir. When the boss spoke, even dogs had to wait. Monday morning, Yoon-shu drove her new car to school. The license had been processed the night before. She headed for the student parking lot, but before she could pull in, the security guard came running. Miss Su. Wait. She stopped and rolled down the window. What's going on? Your car, you can park inside. Your spot is right next to the principal's. The guard was short of breath. Oh, thanks. She steered toward the spot and parked. A matte black luxury car. Even a light tap on the gas made the engine growl hard enough to stop people in their tracks. By the time she parked and got out, curious eyes were already fixed on her. Master, your ride is insane. Lee Jun had followed the engine song all the way over. He'd assumed some rich brat was showing off again. Then he realized it was his own master. His eyes practically glued themselves to the hood. He ran a hand over it, grinning shamelessly. Master, can I borrow this? Yoon-shu didn't even hesitate. She held out the keys. Lee Jun's hand froze. He pulled back with an awkward laugh. Maybe later. After I practice more. She pocketed the keys, rolled her eyes, and turned toward the teaching building. Lee Jun scrambled to catch up. They walked, talking about things on the website. He was in the middle of an animated story when Yoon-shu stopped dead. Huh? What's wrong, master? He watched her take a step backward, her gaze fixed on the small garden beside the building. A few seconds later, she headed that way. Lee Jun followed. In the garden, Shangfu Muse, whom they hadn't seen in ages, was hiding under a tree, muttering to herself. Lee Jun spotted her first. Hey, don't you have a match today? Why are you hiding out here? Mu Yan's face flushed when she saw Su Xinyue and Gao Feng. Oh, it's you guys. I'm fine, seriously. Just bored, watching ants move their colony. She grabbed a little stick off the ground and poked around. But after a solid minute of searching, she couldn't find a single ant in this spot, let alone a whole colony on the move. Su Xinyue and Gao Feng just watched her scramble for excuses. Finally giving up, Mu Yun tossed the stick aside, defeated. Don't worry about me. Go back to class. Just tell us what's going on. What are you really doing out here? Gao Feng never held back. Mu Yun looked from Su Xinyue to Gao Feng, her voice thick with sadness. I can't compete. Even though it means everything to me, the moment I step on stage, I freeze. I can't play. Aren't you practicing every day? Su Xinyue spoke up. Mu Yun nodded. Yeah, but every time I think about competing on stage, I start shaking. I can't play at all. Are you sick? Gao Feng pressed. No. Stage fright. Su Xinyue caught on immediately. Mu Yun shook her head, then nodded, leaving both of them confused. I don't know. I can practice fine, but performing? I can't. Gao Feng wanted to help, but he'd never touched an instrument in his life. What could he even do? The garden fell silent. Stand up. Look at me. Su Xinyue's voice was cool but firm. Startled, Mu Yun obeyed, rising to her feet and meeting Su Xinyue's gaze. For a moment, their eyes locked. Mu Yun, how many years have you been playing? Since I was 4. This is my 17th year. How many competitions have you entered? Su Xinyue pressed. I've lost count. Over 100, big and small. Were you scared your first time on stage? No. I was too young to know better. Gao Feng watched their back and forth with curiosity but stayed silent. Good. Su Xinyue paused, then suddenly raised her right hand in a fist. Gao Feng braced for a punch, but her fist just hung in the space between them. Slowly, she opened her palm. Mu Yun stared at the pale skin. You're not scared right now, either. Understand? Because I've already taken your fear. With that, Su Xinyue snapped her fingers shut into a tight fist. Mu Yun repeated the words, almost in a whisper. I'm not scared. The fear is gone. As she said it, Su Xinyue patted her shoulder. The dullness in Mu Yan's eyes vanished, replaced by a bright spark. Oh no! I'm going to be late for the competition, she cried, suddenly panicked as she looked at Su Xinyue and Gaofeng. What do I do? How much time? Su Xinyue pulled out her phone. 30 minutes, but it's at the central auditorium. I'll never make it. I've prepared so long, Mu Yan's voice cracked. Su Xinyue grabbed her arm and ran toward the parking lot. Come on. I'm driving. Will we make it? Yes. Trust me. Mu Yun didn't argue. If Su Xinyue said they'd make it, she believed her. They reached the parking lot. Su Xinyue slid into the driver's seat and told the two in back, buckle up. The Aston Martin shot forward before the words left her mouth. To dodge rush hour traffic, Su Xinyue took the ring road. The car flew down the highway like a streak of lightning. Faster. The speedometer needle blew past 200 kilometers per hour. Mu Yun handled it, but Gaofeng was certain he was about to die. He gripped the seatbelt for dear life, feet jammed against the floor, eyes squeezed shut. Su Xinyue sliced through traffic, barely lifting off the gas. Thank God the car was built for this, or it would never survive her driving. Screech! A brutal stop. Su Xinyue checked the time. We're here. 10 minutes to spare. Mu Yun scrambled out, called a hurried goodbye, and sprinted into the auditorium. A loud retch made Su Xinyue glance back. Gaofeng had already shoved the door open and was crouched by the floor bed, throwing up. She frowned. You okay? She handed him a tissue. He didn't even lift his head. Fine, master, ugh. I'm fine, ugh. God. He threw up when she fought, and now he threw up when she drove. Unbelievable. It took him forever to recover. Breakfast was a complete waste. Inside, the competition had already started. The faint melody drifted out. Master, did you hypnotize Mu Yun back there? Gaofeng remembered her strange move in the garden. Su Xinyue leaned against the car hood, watching clouds drift across the sky. You could call it that. Psychological suggestion is more accurate. Mu Yun had real talent, but Su Xinyue had put pressure on her at her grandfather's banquet. That pressure had never released, slowly turning into what she described able to practice, but unable to compete. Master, you're amazing. Gaofeng was in awe. Hacking, fighting, psychological tricks, and driving skills that rivaled a pro racer. How could one person learn so much? He couldn't help but look at her with hope. Master, when you have time, can you teach me some sack? A blaring siren cut him off. They both turned. Two police cars, lights flashing, screeched to a stop behind them. 4 uniformed officers stepped out. Ma'am, were you driving this Aston Martin? One officer approached Su Xinyue, showing his badge. Su Xinyue nodded. That's me. Then I need you to come with us. The officer's tone was serious. You were driving at extreme speeds, endangering public safety. You'll need to come to the station for an investigation. Please cooperate. Gaofeng jumped in, his voice urgent. Officer, we were just trying to get a classmate to a competition. We were in a rush. I didn't realize I was speeding. It won't happen again, I swear. He threw on his most pitiful expression, hoping for a break. The officer didn't budge. Son, we're doing our jobs. Save it for the station. But... Enough, Gaofeng. Mu Yun cut him off. I'll go with them. You wait here for Yunshu. She left her phone in the car. I broke the rules. I'll take the consequences. Gaofeng's voice shook. I'll wait for Yunshu, then I'll find you. Mu Yun nodded and followed the officer into the police car. Gaofeng stared after the car, panic clawing at his chest. He wanted to call Fu Huaishang, but when he scrolled through his contacts, the number wasn't there. His mind raced. What do I do? What do I do? Are they gonna mess with her? I've heard that place is terrifying. Then it hit him. Sunyancheng. He'll have the number. He dialed, thankful they'd swapped numbers last time. Voicemail. Again. And again. His chest squeezed tight. Just as he was pacing frantic circles, Yunshu walked out. She took one look at him. Hey, what's wrong? Lose your wallet or something? Lose my wallet? They took her. My teacher got taken. Gao Feng blurted. Yunshu's fists clenched. Who took her? I'll knock their heads in. Gao Feng's explanation spilled out in a rush. Meanwhile, Mu Yun followed the officers into the station. Shan Yishuang was just walking out. The instant he spotted her, his brain clicked. He rushed outside and made a call. Cousin. I was wrapping up a case and I saw Mu Yun get brought in. A pause. Yeah, the 3rd Bureau in Yunyan District. Inside the interrogation room, Mu Yun sat in the center chair. The officer who brought her in didn't start any questioning, just told her to sit tight and disappeared. The door opened again and a tall officer she didn't recognize walked in. He looked her up and down. School uniform. Luxury car. Speeding. His mood brightened. Ahem. Let's start your statement, he said. What should have been a simple speeding ticket turned into a circling interrogation. He kept trying to trap her into admitting something more. Mu Yun, aside from speeding, what other laws did you break? None. You sure? Positive. I'd advise you to come clean before I dig it up. The penalty will be much worse. Go ahead and dig. Mu Yun stayed perfectly calm. Not a flicker of panic. That got under his skin. He slammed his palm on the table. Don't be ungrateful, Missy. He glared, trying to intimidate her. But no matter how long he stared, he couldn't find a trace of fear in her eyes. So he switched tactics. His face softened. You were seriously speeding and you're not cooperating. That means a fine, points on your license, plus detention. Mu Yun said nothing. He leaned in, dropping his voice. But if you're willing to pay a little extra, I can make that detention go away. Understand? Oh. So he was one of those. Mu Yan's expression shifted. She played along, looking innocent. Really? If I pay more, I don't have to stay here. Of course. He thought she'd taken the bait. Okay. I'll give you my family's number. Call them. We've got money. He'll pay whatever you ask. The officer's smile widened. Naive schoolgirl. Easy cash. He pulled out his phone. Mu Yun recited the digits. When the call connected, she handed it over. Hello? Is this Brother Huashang? It's Mu Yun. The man on the other end recognized her voice instantly. He had no idea what game she was playing, but he went along. Yeah, it's me. So, I got a speeding ticket, and I'm at the station. I need to pay a fine. Bring enough cash so I can get out fast. The address is... She hung up. The officer cheerfully poured her a glass of water. Your family will be here soon, right? Very soon. Don't worry. Mu Yun smiled, and something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. At full corporation, Fu Huaishang ended the call and walked straight out of the meeting, leaving every executive baffled. That's the 2nd time this week. What's going on with him? One manager muttered. A female manager leaned in. Maybe he's in love. Have you seen his face lately? Not nearly as terrifying. Right. I used to be scared to even meet his eyes. Now, not so much. 10 minutes later, a string of black luxury sedans pulled up outside the police station. Xiaobai parked right in front of the entrance. Fu Huaishang stepped out, his face carved from ice, his entire presence freezing the air. Oh Mr. Fu. What brings you here? Director Luo had scurried downstairs the instant he got word. Fu Huaishang's lips barely moved. My wife got a speeding ticket. I'm here to pay the fine. Wife? Who the hell had arrested Fu Huaishang's wife? And since when was he married? Director Luo's thoughts scattered in every direction. Xiaobai opened a briefcase packed with euros. The director's stomach dropped. Director Luo. Is this enough? If not, I can get more. That briefcase of money didn't look like a fine. It looked like a gun aimed straight at his head. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Mr. Fu, please, don't say that. Let me look into this right away. He grabbed a passing officer. Who arrested a speeder today? The officer glanced nervously at Fu Huaishang. Yes, sir. Captain Zhou is handling the interrogation. Luo Zhongchen heard who it was, and the only thought that flashed through his mind was, I'm screwed. He forced the panic down. You. Get the madam out here. Now. The officer moved, but Luo Zhongchen shook his head. No. I'll go myself. Mr. Fu, right this way. The director, usually so full of himself, couldn't keep his voice steady. Fu Huaishang didn't answer. He just walked. Luo Zhongchen rushed ahead to lead the way. Inside the interrogation room, Zhou Yian checked his phone, mentally tallying up how much he'd demand. Yun Shu sat across from him, watching the man practically drool over an imaginary payday. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The door swung open. Director! What are you doing here? Zhou Yian completely missed the pale, clammy sheen on Luo Zhongchen's face. Luo Zhongchen ignored him. He walked straight to Yun Shu and bent at the waist. Madam, the young master is here to take you home. Fu Huaishang stepped into the room, his sharp gaze cutting through the space and landing on Zhou Yian, who was still too dense to figure out what was happening. Yun Shu smiled, sweet and unhurried. You came. Did you bring enough for the fine? Fu Huaishang's face stayed cold. He scanned her once, quick and thorough. No injuries. His voice dropped through the room like a blade of ice. I did. But they won't take it. Luo Zhongchen's uniform was already soaked through with sweat. Madam, you must be joking. Joking? Director, she was speeding. She owes the fine. And if the amount doesn't add up, I have every right to detain her. Zhou Yian still hadn't caught on. Shut your mouth. One more word and I'll lock you up myself. Luo Zhongchen's roar twisted his face into something ugly. Zhou Yian had never seen him like this. A cold knot tightened in his stomach. Director Luo, I'm taking my wife home. Where do we pay the fine? Fu Huaishang's voice was low and even. Mr. Fu, please. Yun Shu raised a hand. No. I sped. I'll pay the fine. I'll accept whatever penalty I deserve. Her gaze turned icy. But if someone tries to use my speeding ticket to shake me down. No, no. Madam, you have my word. I'll discipline my man personally. Luo Zhongchen jumped to reassure her, words tumbling out in a rush. He felt like he was being roasted over an open flame. Nowhere to turn, no way to stand still. My wife says pay the fine. So we pay the fine. Fu Huaishang took Yun Shu's hand. It was obvious they weren't leaving until this was settled. Then Mr. Fu, madam, if you follow me, I'll take you to handle the payment. Yun Shu glanced back before she walked out. Zhou Yian's face had gone chalk white. The look she gave him carried a razor-sharp warning. They paid a fine of 1,000 yuan and 3 points on her license. Luo Zhongchen personally escorted them out. Master! Master! Two voices called out at the same time. Mu Ying and Dr. Gao stood waiting near the entrance, Shangfu mused behind them. Mu Ying rushed forward and looked Yun Shu over from head to toe. Master, are you okay? Yun Shu kept her voice even. I'm fine. Did you finish your competition? Mu Ying nodded. First place. Without you, I wouldn't have won today. So whether you like it or not, I'm your disciple now. Her jaw set with pure stubbornness. Yun Shu had nothing to say to that. Shangfu Muse walked over and nodded politely at Fu Huaishang. Mr. Fu, long time no see. Fu Huaishang gave a slight nod in return. Shangfu Muse turned to Yongshu. My little sister told me you got pulled over for speeding while taking her to the competition. I came to see if I could help. But since Mr. Fu is here, I'd say there's nothing left for me to do. Yongshu nodded. Thanks. I'm fine. A commotion erupted from outside. Shen Yishuan burst through the doors, stopping short when he spotted Yongshu. Who arrested you? Luo Zhongchen wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Any one of these men. Fu Huaishang, Shangfu Muse, Shen Yishuan. Any single one of them could have his entire traffic team reassigned to the middle of nowhere. And today, all three had shown up. That bastard Zhou Yiyan. Luo Zhongchen was going to skin him alive. Dr. Gao felt the pressure in the room's back and silently stepped back. My master's fine. Before Yongshu could answer, Mu Yun jumped in and pulled her aside. Yongshu didn't know why Shen Yishuang was here, but the concern on his face looked real enough. I'm fine, she said. Fu Huaishang's cold gaze locked onto Shen Yishuang. His eyes were like frozen stars. No warmth, just a crushing, impossible to ignore intensity. Shen Yishuang felt it. He met the stare without flinching. Their gazes collided like live wires, the air between them crackling. The police station went dead silent. Time stalled. Everyone in that room felt the pressure building, like a storm about to break wide open. Just as it reached the breaking point, Yongshu took Fu Huaishang's hand. Let's go. Fu Huaishang didn't speak. He let her lead him toward the door. But at the exit, he stopped. He turned his head slowly and gave Shen Yishuang one last look. A long, weighted glance. Impossible to read. But Shen Yishuang understood it perfectly. Stop staring. They're gone. Shangfu Muse stepped over and clapped a hand on Shen Yishuang's shoulder. Shen Yishuang cleared his throat. Relax. Yongshu's fine. With Fu Huaishang here, what exactly could anyone do to her? Shen Yishuang pressed his lips together and said nothing. Luo Zhongchen approached with extreme caution. Young Master Shangfu, Miss Mu Yun, Mr. Shen. Would any of you like to come upstairs for some tea? Tea? You arrested my master and now you're offering tea. Mu Yun snapped. Mu Yun. Manners. Shangfu Muse reined her in. Shen Yishuang, who had stayed silent until now, spoke. Who arrested her? Luo Zhongchen blinked. He hadn't expected that question. Do I need to ask again? No. Of course not. It wasn't long before Captain Zhou arrived with his team and gave the traffic police station a major renovation. Colonel Luo Zhongchen sat behind his desk, brow furrowed, scanning a classified report. A sharp knock yanked his attention. Reporting. Li Jun called from the other side of the door. Luo Zhongchen waved him in. Li Jun crossed the room, set a tablet on the desk, and tapped the screen. Sir, you need to see this. Luo Zhongchen put the report aside. A sleek website filled the screen. It just went live, Li Jun said. The intelligence on here is staggering. I'm talking massive scope, but the detail. I've never seen anything like it. And here's the kicker: in 1 week, it's already crushed every competitor in its class. In the information age, everything civilian life, tech, the military ran on speed and data. Luo Zhongchen tracked developments in this space exactly for that reason. Impressive. He nodded. Can you reach them? Li Jun's expression tightened. I tried. They turned down any partnership offer, point blank. I didn't disclose our identity. Luo Zhongchen slid the tablet back. Set up a meeting with whoever's running it. I'll handle it myself. Yes, Colonel. Li Jun left without another word. Afternoon sunlight filtered into the hospital room. Shen Wangsheng finally woke from surgery. The doctors ran their tests and moved him out of the ICU into a standard room. Shen Yishuang had grown up overnight. When he saw his father's eyes open, he didn't cry. He just brought water, wrung out a washcloth, and gently cleaned his father's hands and face. Shen Wanzhong watched his son, tears soaking the pillow more than once. Yishuan told him everything that had happened with the family. Shen Wanzhong listened, his face still, as if he'd been expecting it. You listen to your sister now, understand? Shen Wanzhong squeezed his son's hand. Yishuan nodded, his jaw set. I know, father. Don't worry. Once his father was stable, Yishuan called Zhou Qimeng to update her. She gave him a few more instructions, then hung up. At that moment, Fu Huaishan strode into his office after a meeting. She'd been hanging out with him since the traffic police station, playing CEO companion while he worked. Time to go, babe. Your husband's off the clock. Let's head home. Zhou Qimeng checked her phone. It's 3 in the afternoon. She lifted an eyebrow. You're really okay skipping out this early? The corner of his mouth twitched upward, his voice low. If I had to sit here 24 hours a day for full corporation to turn a profit, then everyone in this building is dead weight. Fair enough. Zhou Qimeng grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the elevator. Night fell. The city lit up. After a long workday, the capital's young professionals flooded the bars to shake off the stress. At the club, Shangfu Muse hadn't shown his face in a while. Tonight, he finally came back. Luo Zhongchen was buried in military drills. Fu Huaishan had become the guy who forgets his friends the second a woman enters his life. So tonight, Shangfu Muse walked in alone. The club manager spotted him instantly and rushed over. Shangfu Muse slipped into a booth, ordered a bottle, and leaned back to watch the stage while he sipped. Life was good. Every few minutes, women who recognized him sent electric looks his way, hoping to catch the attention of the capital's most notorious playboy. Shangfu Muse was immune to amateur flirtation. He kept drinking, perfectly content. Upstairs, in a private room, a man and a woman traded hollow conversation. The air between them was tight. Han Duo felt the room closing in. She reached for her juice and drank half the glass in one go. The man beside her watched the liquid disappear, and the tension in his shoulders eased a fraction. So, Duo. He wore frameless glasses, average in every way. My parents brought up the idea that since we've been together a while, maybe we should set a date to meet each other's families. Something flickered in his eyes when he looked at her. The mention of meeting parents made Han Duo's stomach knot with resistance, but she kept her expression calm. Hoken, finals are coming up. School's been insane. Let's put that on hold for now. She and San Hachen had met on a dating app. Han Duo came from a family of academics, a respected teaching lineage in the capital. San Hachen's family owned a chain of tutoring centers. She was 27 and had never been in a relationship. Her family never let up about it. One day, San Hachen added her on the app and they started talking. About a month in, he asked her to be official. She said no, but her answer was soft. He took it as a yes, so she let it ride. Now, after nearly 6 months of this undefined thing, all they'd done was grab meals together. A few times he tried to hold her hand, she dodged every time. She felt okay about him but not close enough for more. Still, something about him made her skin prickle. Her refusal didn't seem to faze him at all. Fine, we'll talk about it later. Here, have more juice. The club presses it fresh from fruit flown in daily. It's really good. He refilled her glass. Han Duo had expected him to be angry. He wasn't, and that made her feel a little guilty. She nodded, picked up the glass, and drank another half. Her head started to feel a little heavy, but she chalked it up to the stuffy room. Duo, stay put. I'm hitting the restroom. San Hachen stood and walked out. Okay. She glanced at the private bathroom inside the room. Why would he use the public one? But she didn't think much of it. Everyone had their habits. Bored and alone she couldn't sing karaoke. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through the school group chat. Downstairs, Shangfu Muse was bored out of his mind. But going home wasn't an option. If he did, it would mean the same lecture about marriage. He decided to head upstairs. He had his own private lounge at the club, same as Fu Huaishang and the other guys. Some nights when he drank too much, he just crashed there. As he climbed the stairs, the music from the main floor faded, and the quiet of the upper hallway settled around him like a held breath. The lounge was cleaned daily. Even when Fu Huaishang's crew wasn't around, nobody else set foot inside. He took the elevator to the third floor without hesitation. The doors slid open, and he stepped into the hallway, rounding the corner toward the private room. A man stood against the wall, phone pressed to his ear. Fu Huaishang barely glanced at him, kept walking. Then the words hit him cold. Gave her the juice. Should kick in soon. By the time it's over, the deal's sealed. Just wait for my signal. Fu Huaishang had spent enough time in clubs and bars to know exactly what that meant. His stomach turned. That kind of scumbag move disgusted him. Sex was one thing. But it had to be mutual. Anything else wasn't a hookup. It was assault. He hated it down to his core. Still, he wasn't about to play hero and charge into a stranger's mess. Inside the private room, Zhou Qimeng stared at her phone screen. The group chat messages smeared into a blur. Heat rolled through her body in waves. Her vision doubled, then tripled. Her head felt like 100 pounds of dead weight. Before she could make sense of it, the phone slipped from her fingers and landed on the sofa. She reached for it, but her hand wouldn't cooperate. The screen tilted out of reach. What's happening to me? Her cheeks burned. An unnatural itch crawled beneath her skin. This was her first time at a club like this. She had no idea she'd been drugged. Her body slid boneless onto the cushions. She fought to keep her eyes open, but her lids were made of lead. Xiaobai, her voice came out weak, barely a whisper. She tried again, forcing the words past her lips. Xiaobai. Xiaobai. I'm here. The phone finally chirped. Help, call. Master, who would you like me to call from your contacts? Call. Zhou Qimeng couldn't hold on any longer. Her eyes shut completely. Outside, San Haochen kept checking the time on his phone. The moment hit. He crept to the small window in the door and peered inside. Through the frosted glass, he saw a figure lying motionless on the sofa. The drug had kicked in. He pushed the door open silently, slipped inside, locked it behind him, and shrugged off his jacket to cover the window. Standing over Zhou Qimeng's unconscious form, he let out a twisted smile. His wire-rimmed glasses caught the dim light, sharpening the predator in his expression. Zhou Qimeng, you've been dodging me all this time, haven't you? Well, once you're mine, let's see how high and mighty you can act. He stripped off his shirt and pants in a frantic rush. Then he reached for her clothes. But she was wearing a fully buttoned cardigan, and the damn thing was a pain. The buttons were tiny. His fingers were clumsy. It took forever just to get two undone. Sensing weight on her body, Zhou Qimeng stirred groggily. Her vision was still a fog, but she could make out San Haochen looming over her. She lifted a limp hand. Hokan, help, please, help me. I feel so weird. He laughed a greasy, eerie sound. Don't worry. I am helping you. In a minute, you'll be begging me to take you. And then you'll be saved. Ha ha ha. Her mind was thick with haze. She couldn't process the wrongness in his voice. But something was off. Her skirt was sliding slowly down her legs. A jolt of clarity pierced through the fog. Buzz. Her eyes flew open. For the first time, she saw the man on top of her for what he truly was. Terrifying. San Haochen, what are you doing? She raised a hand to push him away, but the drug had drained every ounce of strength. Her shove landed like nothing. The pathetic resistance only fed his sick excitement. What am I doing? I'm fucking you. Once you're mine, how are you going to refuse to marry me then? A chill shot down her spine. Tears spilled over. Son. Hokan, please, don't. I'm begging you. Begging won't help. Women like you. My mother was right once it's done, you can't run. He patted her flushed cheek, laughing like a man unhinged. Besides, if we get married, our families can work together. My business will have all the connections I need. Zhou Qimeng, this is what they call a powerhouse union, get it? Be a good girl. I promise you'll feel real good. He stopped pretending. With one vicious yank, he tore her delicate cardigan apart. Zhou Qimeng bit her lips so hard she drew blood. Pain was the only thing keeping her conscious. She shoved at him with everything she had, swinging wildly. SSSSS. A long, bloody scratch ripped across Sun Hachen's face. He yelped, clutching his cheek. You bitch. You asked for it. His face burning, he grabbed both her wrists and pinned them above her head. Then he leaned down. Bang! The door exploded open. The deafening crack made Sun Hachen jolt. He barely turned his head before a fist slammed into his face, sending him crashing to the floor. Fu Huaishan stood in the doorway, fury etched into every line of his face. Even that tacky floral shirt couldn't hide the ice radiating off him. He glanced at Zhou Qimeng dazed, still flailing weakly, and grabbed a fallen jacket to cover her. Who the hell are you? I'm with my girlfriend. Mind your own business. Sun Hachen's glasses had been knocked off. Nearsighted, he could only make out a tall silhouette. Your girlfriend. Say that again, I fucking dare you. Fu Huaishan's voice boomed. The sheer authority in it made Sun Hachen go silent. He scrambled on the floor, searching for his glasses. Fu Huaishan stepped out, took a blanket from the club manager, wrapped Zhou Qimeng securely, and lifted her into his arms. As he left the room, he gave a cold order. Beat him. Beat him until even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. Just leave him breathing. Yes, sir. A group of burly bodyguards answered in unison. The heavy door slammed shut. A wet crack sounded behind it, and Sun Hachen's scream was smothered by the thick walls. In Fu Huaishan's private room, the club doctor had already hooked Zhou Qimeng up to N4. Mr. Fu, the drug she was given is the strongest thing on the market right now. The fluids will stabilize her, but she's going to feel the effects for a while. The club kept a doctor on call specifically for situations like this. Fu Huaishan sat on the sofa in the outer room, a cigarette burning between his fingers, his eyes fixed on the bed. Zhou Qimeng's phone rested in his other hand. He barely made it back to the room when his own phone buzzed. Hey, Teacher Zhou. What's up? You never call me. I haven't been driving lately, so if someone rear-ended your car, that one's not on me. They exchanged numbers after their two collisions. Fu Huaishan kept talking, but the other end was dead silent. Yo, Teacher Zhou, if you but dialed me, I'm hanging up. He figured she just tapped his name by accident. Just as he was about to end the call, he heard her voice. Crying. Begging. Fu Huaishan listened hard, piecing it together with the man he'd spotted in the hallway a few minutes earlier. His face went pale, and he bolted out of the room. He grabbed the club manager, got the guy's reservation, confirmed the room number, and kicked the door open. Inside, Sun Hachen was about to force himself on Zhou Qimeng. Thank God. He made it in time. Half an hour later, the bed was empty. Fu Huaishan pulled the needle himself. Zhou Qimeng lay motionless on the huge black bed, her cheeks still flushed. The drug was still working through her system. Sweat glistened on her forehead, and her lower lip, where she'd bitten it, was swollen and deep red. For any normal man, this scene was pure torture. Fu Huaishang's throat went dry. His Adam's apple bobbed before he could stop it. Then Zhou Qimen's eyes snapped open. The instant she saw a man beside the bed, she shot upright, clutching the blanket, scrambling backward into the corner. Don't come near me, please. Her voice splintered into sobs. She hadn't fully come back to herself yet. Her mind was still trapped in that moment of utter helplessness. Fu Huaishang dropped onto the edge of the bed and held up his hands. Teacher Zhou. It's me. Look at me. I'm not that scumbag. Watching her cry rattled him. At the sound of his voice, Zhou Qimen slowly lifted her head. When her eyes found Fu Huaishang, confusion flickered through the desperation. Then the tears broke free all at once, spilling down her face. She let out a raw, shuddering sob. This was the first time anything like this had ever happened to her. She was terrified. Even knowing she was safe now, what just happened had left a mark. A scar she could still feel. Hey! Don't cry. That bastard drugged you. I got you out. You're safe now. The drug hasn't worn off yet. If you're uncomfortable, I can run you a bath. You want to soak? Or I can call the doctor back. Another round of fluids. Fu Huaishang threw out a dozen suggestions, but Zhou Qimen didn't register a single one. She just cried harder. Shaken and humiliated, she couldn't stop the sobs tearing out of her. Just as Fu Huaishang was about to call for backup, Zhou Qimen's crying stopped. She looked at him with red-rimmed eyes, her face raw with hurt. Her breath still hitched. Thank you, Fu Huaishang. She'd never imagined San Haochen could be that kind of man. And what she never expected, the flashy guy she'd always written off as some playboy was the one who'd saved her. When she stopped crying and actually thanked him, Fu Huaishang froze for half a beat, then recovered fast. It's nothing. We've got that car crash bond, right? His joke surprised a laugh out of her. But the heat spreading through her body pulled her back fast. She shifted, awkward. I'd like to soak in the tub. I'm still feeling off. Oh. Yeah. I'll run the water. Fu Huaishang disappeared into the bathroom. Zhou Qimen didn't relax until she sank into the cool water. Out in the room, Fu Huaishang lit another cigarette and dragged deep. He burned through it fast. When the silence from the bathroom stretched too long, he started worrying she might have passed out or worse. He crossed to the door and knocked. Teacher Zhou. You okay? Teacher Zhou. 2 calls. Nothing. He was about to force the door when her voice finally came through. I'm fine. I just want to soak a little longer. Oh. Okay. Call if you need anything. I'm right out here. Okay. Thank you. Staring at the closed bathroom door, thinking about Fu Huaishang waiting on the other side, Zhou Qimen understood something for the first time. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover. A guy in a log shirt wasn't necessarily a player. But San Haochen, the buttoned-up gentleman, he was garbage, through and through. She soaked for an hour. When she finally came out, her hands and feet were pruned. Seeing her struggle to walk steady, Fu Huaishang reached out to help, then hesitated. He didn't want to scare her. His hand hovered in the air, commit or pull back. Zhou Qimen caught the awkwardness and offered him a small, apologetic smile. I'm okay. I can manage. I'll call if I need you. All right. She made her way slowly back to the bed, sat for a moment, then spoke. I want to go home. Can you call my family for me? Fu Huaishang handed her phone back. You don't need to drag them out. I can drive you. It's late anyway. It was past 3 in the morning. Her parents were usually asleep by 10. Waking them now would only make them worry. Zhou Qimen thought for a moment, then nodded. Then I'll trouble you. Thank you. For everything tonight. Fu Huaishang brought her fresh clothes, then waited outside the door. When she stepped out dressed, he drove her to her front gate. Getting out of the car, Zhou Qimeng looked at him, her cheeks heating. I really want to thank you for tonight. I'm sorry for all the mean things I said before. I shouldn't have. What, the peacock thing? Fu Huaisheng grinned. Bai Rulin's face crumpled with regret. I'm so sorry. Fu Huaisheng waved it off, utterly unbothered. Don't worry about it. Honestly, that nickname's kind of cool. Alright, go on in. I'm heading out. Bai Rulin watched the car glide away until it vanished, her thoughts drifting. The next morning, Yunshu had barely killed the engine when Zhou Qimeng came sprinting toward her. Boss! Good morning! She shoved a drink into Yunshu's hand, her face bright with eager-to-please excitement. Yunshu took the drink. Morning! Boss, did you eat breakfast? Yes. Boss, want some fruit to cleanse your palate? No. Boss, what sounds good for lunch? No idea. Then I'll pick something fabulous for you. Flatterer. The voice wasn't Yunshu's. It was Gu Hongxian, striding up behind them. Hey, Gu Hongxian. Don't you have any manners? You're supposed to greet your boss and your senior colleague. Zhou Qimeng seemed born to clash with him. Not a single exchange went without a barb. Seriously. I joined the company before you. Why would I call you senior? You should be calling me senior. Zhou Qimeng planted her hands on her hips, ready for battle. I'm 6 months older than you. We're going by age. Who said we're going by age? You're not the boss. Your rules don't count. Right, Boss Gu Hongxian spun to get Yunshu to settle it, but when he turned, she was already walking away. Forget it. I'm done with you. He took off after her. Zhou Qimeng was right on his heels. If you two can't stop arguing, stay away from me. Yunshu's voice cut cold through the air. She had zero patience for those two clowns. We won't. I'll be senior, he'll be junior. Done deal. You. Gu Hongxian opened his mouth to argue, but one look at Yunshu's irritated face shut him up fast. Fine. A real man doesn't argue with women. Besides, Yunshu had personally recruited him. Zhou Qimeng had basically forced her way in. If this were a corporate ladder, he'd be in the core team and she'd be a peripheral hire. No comparison. That thought made Gu Hongxian feel a whole lot better. Zhou Qimeng spoke again. Boss, Yangzhu filed a withdrawal. She's already moved into the Su residence, but the Su family doesn't seem too thrilled with her. Withdrawal? Probably because her belly was starting to show. If she kept coming to work, the secret would be out pretty soon. And the Su family not liking her. That threat. A girl showing up pregnant, trying to force a marriage through a family visit, no normal person would welcome that. Especially a family like the Zas. Respectable enough to care about face, but not so respectable they just take the hit quietly. Yunshu stayed silent, but Gu Hongxian jumped in. How do you know all this? This circle isn't that big. Household staff talk. She picked it up from her own servants. How the servants got the info, she couldn't say. Gu Hongxian couldn't resist. Your servants are such gossips. Yours are the gossipy ones. They were at it again. Yunshu dropped a single line, "Don't come near me today," and strode off fast. The two glared at each other, then looked away, pure disgust in their eyes. When work let out that afternoon, Yunshu drove straight to the hospital. By the time she walked in, Shen Yishuang had just finished spooning congee into Shen Wangzhong's mouth. Sis, you're here. Shen Yishuang's face lit up the moment he saw her. Yunshu nodded and crossed to the sofa, settling in. Shen Wangzhong looked at her, and tears instantly glistened in his eyes. Leave us. Yunshu's order was flat, directed at Shen Yishuang. He nodded obediently and slipped out of the room. The monitoring equipment hummed softly, beeping in steady rhythm. Shen Wangzhong wanted to speak, but every time he opened his mouth, his throat seized up. If you can't find the words, then I'll talk and you listen. Her voice was cold, just like always. This man was her father by blood, but he wasn't hers. She was only handling the Shen family's mess out of obligation to the original body she now inhabited. I've dealt with Mao Lu and the thugs. Shen Yishuang should have filled you in. Shen Wangzhong nodded. He was satisfied with how those two had been handled. I recovered every cent Mao Lu embezzled from Shen Corp and put it back in the company account. You can verify with Li Jun. He lifted a weak hand and waved it. No need. I know, you wouldn't lie to me. As for Yangzhu, she's not your daughter. So she's not my problem. A flash of shame flickered across Shen Wangzhong's face. Over 2 decades of raising a child, only to learn she wasn't his blood. The bitterness was suffocating. After a long silence, Shen Wangzhong finally spoke, his voice trembling. Yunshu, you're a good girl. Everything before, it was my fault. I failed you. If I'm not here anymore, take care of yourself, and your brother. Those last words seemed to drain every ounce of strength he had. He sat back against the raised hospital bed. Yunshu watched him without a word. Then she stood and walked to the door. Got it. Shen Wangzhong had expected her to ignore him completely. But she answered. Tears finally spilled over, trailing down his temples as he stared at the ceiling. Outside, Shen Yishuang was crouched against the hallway wall. The second he saw her come out, he scrambled upright. Sis. You're going to work tomorrow. I've arranged for a nurse. But he was worried about their father. Yunshu's gaze hardened. But what? The sky hasn't fallen. You can't let your career slip. How else are you going to carry the Shen family one day? Shen Yishuang stared at her, stunned. After a few seconds, he nodded solemnly. Okay. I'll listen to you. Take care of yourself. Call me if anything comes up. She reached out and squeezed his shoulder. At the Su residence, dinner was served. Yangzhu sat alone at the dining table. She stared at the 3 dishes and 1 soup placed in front of her. Her appetite was non-existent. Back at the Shen house, even a solitary meal had meant 6 dishes and a soup. She managed to stay in the Su home. But 2 days had passed, and Su Zongyuan's parents still hadn't said a word about a wedding ceremony.